Bruce. I think I should join the many thousands of local Netherlanders who've come over from Amsterdam, and we're expecting a good crowd tomorrow. They are expecting a bumper crowd tomorrow.
Well, it was a holiday day yesterday, which was their Liberation Day, and the beaches were absolutely packed like I've never seen them before here at Zandvoort, and still already a goodish crowd today as people are coming in to take a look at the action. And I feel we'll have a whole lot more tomorrow when they have 9 hours of sports car racing, supported by, most unusual class, supercars.
Supercars!
We very seldom get to see them on a car race menu, if you will. But Joe Bradley, I know for one that you are very impressed indeed by the supercars. And Joe, I keep sending him off into the pit garages to find out stuff, so
yes,
I've caught him on the hop again.
I kind of disappear, and you don't just lose me, but I lose you. So it's a blessing in disguise, really. Hi, Kenneth. Kenneth, hi there, just walking across the pit wall. Before I answer your question, I've got a little bit of an update. The number 64 Porsche, the Lorient Racing Porsche, had an off this morning and got quite a bit of damage, really. It's another tale of woe. A fully rebuilt front end. Damage on the side of the car. They're pretty confident that the car's going to be up for qualifying, though, and I would agree with that. The car, you know, it's not too far off being put back together. So, what's the saying? Only bad can come from a morning warm-up, and that's pretty much how this morning was. But get back to your question. What was that? I'm impressed by the supercars.
By the supercars. Well, combine it with the fact what it's like to drive a supercar, but also on a circuit like this. And as we were talking last night, as we walked some of the circuit, the rise and fall once you come out of the Hugenholz Bosch hairpin is a fantastic section of track out into the dunes, where you then dive down at Schevelach.
Those supercars, you know, I mean, if you think about the heritage of where they came from, I mean, having done a lot of karting in my time, 100cc, 125s, etc., etc. When those cars were first brought onto the long circuits, that's when they really found their legs, isn't it? And, you know, things like the Grand Prix and the World Championship, the Supercar World Championship on long circuits, they're lapping in the same as a high-powered Formula 3 single-seater, and the 0 to 60 in 1.5 seconds, or under a second, I think, sometimes these days, depending on the tyres that you're running. But you can imagine them finding their legs through the sweeps, through the dunes, out back, the right-hander, Schleierweg, I think is how you pronounce it. That's my first attempt.
Yeah, no, I'm very impressed with that.
Thanks.
We got the wonderful sweepers before you get there, but when you keep talking about the drivers finding their legs, when I was offered a chance to drive one of those, I thought I was more concerned about losing my legs. Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Thank you very much, Ross Hyatt, for the possibility, but I'm still standing, so I didn't do it.
Well, you're unfeasibly tall, you see, and this is a benefit from being a shorty. Like me. I'm not that short, I suppose, 5'9", but I would imagine I'd be more comfortable in any kind of kart than you would, Bruce. Your arms would be through your knees, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Somewhere on the internet there is a picture. There is a compilation of things that Bruce and I did in 2002 for Bernie's FOM, and it includes Bruce trying to get a very small rental cart started wearing the world's most embarrassing helmet.
I don't remember that.
Helmet where you try and get away, you'll kind of bounce the thing along. So it's on the internet somewhere.
Where was it? What circuit was that?
That was at Spa, I think. You're trying to do a leave, an exit piece for an item, and you're trying to say it and then leave on the car, and the car is not wanting to carry 16, 17 stone of 6'5" Bruce.
Not as entertaining as at Suzuka in the fun fair, where they had one of those vertical takeoff. You sit around a tower and they fire you up, and just at the last second, I suddenly suggested someone else held the microphone, because otherwise I would have taken the camera with me as I ascended sort of 80 feet into the air. But anyhow, that was a long time ago. But Mercedes seem to be having well, they were laughing. We've now got an Audi at the top. Car collection with Gustav Edelhoff, top of the timesheets. Best time so far, 1 minute 44.772. So nearly 6 seconds behind the best of the supercars so far. So a big contrast in money, but you know, right now, it's this final 1 hour practice session right ahead of qualifying. It's about cycling your drivers through. I don't think people are really going for super quick times at the moment. It's just checking everything out.
Well, yeah, I think one of the things that's quite interesting, and I've noticed it again here, is that being the home race of Creventic, being a Dutch organisation, you get a much greater variance of teams turning up here. There's more new teams and new drivers at Zandvoort than at any other event. It's like a travelling circus of cars, which will go around, but you get a lot more local drivers. And also, the other thing I've noticed is we've got 46 cars. There's quite a lot of new cars who just do this round. And a lot of the other cars which we have seen at Mugello and we'll see at Barcelona, I've kind of lead this one away. I'm not sure why that is, but it's proximity to
But they're not all just
V2V.
Dutch entries,
No,
they're international entries.
But it's a very, very interestingly different makeup of cars than you normally see. For example, the Mutrans aren't here. The champions of the event last year. We got a Code 60 and a rescue vehicle. I'm not sure it's a practice Code 60.
Well, we can't tell. I'm quickly looking at the screen that has all the cameras on it, and as I work through, I can't see any off. So I'm looking at there are no waved yellows at Guggenhausbach. Of course, there's the Code 60 flag, which I can now see fluttering. But
I mean, if we look at just to talk about the entry, for example, it's the first time this year we've seen the second Hoffa Racing Mercedes SLS. They've got both cars here. But then you haven't got the number 7 Porsche, who the team name escapes me, who have done particularly well, won a couple of rounds. And there's less A6s than normal, but I think 10 or 9.
Fewer.
Thank you very much indeed. That's the key thing. The two things you have to get right on RedLemon.com is less and fewer and jealous and envious, because apparently if you don't know the difference between those ones,
you're out.
Literally going to get slapped around on a half-hourly basis. But this is a thing. I mean, you couldn't see anything. This does look like a practice Code 6. You got any news from the pits, Joe, about what this might be causing this problem?
No, but it's, you know what, if you look back at Mugello, if you look back at Dubai, we have this same conversation at this point of the first practice session when we tend to speculate as to what the Code 60 is about, and then it turns out that it is a practice Code 60, so everyone can. Because as you've just said, Nick, we've got a lot of new teams, a lot of potentially new competitors. And even then, even if you're a regular competitor, you just need a bit of a refresher about what the Code 60 is. And you also want to educate your drivers, teach your drivers how to implement the Code 60 in the car, whether that be from the accelerator pedal or from some kind of electronic limiter. It's all about that. And it is great to see that at least we remain consistent in our blithering and speculation.
Yeah, I think that's a very true point. We are equally confused by the same thing happening every week. we are serially confused. But one thing is, it was, as always, being a seaside circuit. I mean, if you look under the definition of seaside circuit, you will find Zandvoort. We have a lovely breeze blowing. Last year it was a vicious breeze blowing horrible rain into my face. Now it's a lovely cooling breeze, but it is quite significant. But it's blowing the cars down the main straight to give them an extra few kilometres an hour of speed. And as they go into that famous first hairpin, and I can see now there's still cars in Code 60. I'm not sure where the flag marshal's kind of less enthusiastic about waving it to my left. And as they crawl around, just with only an hour's free practice, I'm not sure how useful actually the teams will find 5 or 6 minutes of Code 60, but I am seeing some course cars going out.
Well, I think they're practicing too.
Obviously, those of you who are not familiar with Code 60 in the Creventic series, it is effectively, if you watch other major racing series, it's the equivalent of virtual safety car.
Virtual racing.
Virtual racing, that's my driving. Equivalent of virtual safety car, but it came first. They thought of it first, or it's equal first with the Dutch supercar series. I think it was where they invented it first. Everyone must stick to a limit of 60 kilometres an hour around the lap. Done by the combination of clever rev limiters and such like, and that carries on whilst the Code 60 is waved. You get a purple flag with a couple of stripes and a 60 in the middle. It goes out at the same time, so the whole track goes down to 60 kilometres at one point, and it is released at the same time. It's not like a safety car, the 3 safety cars you see at Le Mans where you can be in the wrong train. It is probably the most even way of doing things. It neutralises the course. Most people will be able to avoid an accident at 60 kilometres an hour.
It prevents the concertina ring, which of course you get behind a safety car.
But we have, and in fact, one thing that is getting better, I'm not sure, I think you probably agree, is when they were doing this 2 or 3 years ago, the interpretation of what 60 kilometres an hour was massively different.
It was about a 60-kilometre range, wasn't it?
Obviously, the very professional A6 teams had it at 59.99999, and some of the other cars had it like, about 2,000 revs in third.
Yeah,
see what you
here
can
or
do.
there. Yeah.
And we did see cars, because you're obviously not allowed to overtake. Even if the car in front of you is doing 12 kilometres an hour, you can't overtake it. And they were getting very, very frustrated behind cars that were perhaps doing 45 kilometres an hour. And that's when we did see, as Bruce says, a bit of the concertina action happening. But the good news is that as people have got more experience with it, and as, of course, Code 60 equivalents have got more accepted across other racing series, that little problem has ironed itself out. And hopefully this Code 60 will iron itself out too, but it's going on a bit longer than I would think for a test.
Well, car number 125 will be recovered to the pits. So presumably they are the fallen, the stricken,
You still have 5 cars that haven't gone out.
Okay, well, we talked about the GDL race at Team Asia Lamborghini. The 125 is Guy Besham and Harry Hilders, Seon Leia Cup racer, entered by NKPP Racing. But I can't on any of our camera angles. Admittedly, it's quite hard. Just to let you know, the hell that Nick and I are having to put up with. We're in a glass-sided commentary box, which does afford us a view, which is great, but we know it's getting very hot, but it does make looking at the timing screens a bit of guesswork. So if I suddenly say someone's called Max, and I then notice the letter G next to the name, it's probably Gustav. Or G-Max, very good, like it. But we can't see on our multiple screen of 25 different camera positions around the circuit where 125 is.
Joe, you are giving it ambient noise. Do you have anything else for us?
No, nothing other than ambient noise. I just wanted you to feel the fever, guys. It's like you step from the pit wall, which is bathed in beautiful sunshine, probably getting up towards 24, 25 degrees in the sunshine. But then when you come off that and come to the pit garages, it's just that beautiful sort of coolness about the shade.
I have an important setup question to ask you, Joe.
Go ahead.
Do I need, before I come out to do qualifying, to take my T-shirt off, or will 2 layers be enough for walking the pit lane?
Mate, 2 layers will be too much. It's very, very warm out. It's beautiful out there.
That's good to know. Thank you for that.
And I'm soft, even though I'm from the north. I'm really soft, and I've just got the blue shirt, my blue Radio Le Mans shirt, and it's very claggy in the sunshine, but it's very cooling. I was hoping to grab
anyone in trouble in there at all?
No, not at all. I think everyone just scrubbing in tyres, I think. I was going to grab a word with Xavier Masson. I'm going to disappear for a little while. Maybe I'll get a word with Charles Putnam, who's just got out of the 70 Porsche current.
Joe?
Yes, go ahead.
We aren't really solidly on air, so I wouldn't do any interviews.
Sorry, Nick, I've totally got drowned out by engine noise there.
We're not. We're struggling with the ISDN connection, so I wouldn't do any interviews now, but
okay.
Carry on chatting.
Okay, just to let you know, Code 60 will come to an end within 1 minute. So the 125 has clearly been moved from its place of falling, and will be brought back. And now we're green again as I speak. 151 comes into pit lane, one of the BMW Cup class cars, and down the start-finish straight, 232 Porsche with young Michael Blakeman in 66, perhaps at the wheel, or he's sharing it this weekend, but they never stop. It is like their garden party.
This is the home of Bleekemolen's, isn't it?
Totally so.
They have their own sort of driving school here, don't they? They even run a Ferrari. Is Caron here this weekend? I'm not sure whether he's racing.
No, he's not. Sebastian's here, but the other one is not.
I remember the Bleekemolen's. First time I came across them was when they were all running
on Porsche Super Cup?
Like at Monaco.
Yeah.
You were there, 76, don't you?
76?
97 or 98, yeah. They were all there, and I didn't know who they were, obviously, because I was very innocent. And I got very confused.
But ignorant, Nick. Ignorant.
Well, that's true.
Well, it's definitely Michael at the wheel, 39th fastest, but that was his first flying lap, so we'll see what he does under proper green, because obviously only the very final corner and coming onto the start-finish straight was he back up to racing speed. So the top time at the moment is still a 1 minute 40, just under 1 minute 44. So the time's coming down, and it's Robert Renauer, so Porsche top of the time charts at the moment. But again, that Code 60 interrupted just as the drivers were getting up to speed, and we've got all but 4 of the cars now. We've had out on the circuit, or have been out on the circuit, 42 out of the 46. So a good crowd, a big crowd, and so it's Robert, in fact, it's his brother, Alfred Renauer, on the top of the time. So it's 1 minute 43.9 seconds in Precourt Herber Porsche. The second fastest is the car collection Audi R8. Peter Schmidt at the wheel, and now Paul White has taken over the number 30 Mercedes for Ram Racing and is third fastest. So good chassis variety, Porsche, Audi and Mercedes at the top of the time charts.
Now, those of you who may or may not be listening to what I said earlier on, Alfred and Albert Renauer were exactly the people I was talking about in that Porsche, but they've cheated me by not being car number 7 in my numerical entry list, but car 911.
Well, when you said that, I started panicking, because I was thinking, but I know they're here.
Yes, they are.
But because our programme is not in numerical order, alphabetical order, anything would help. But
the official entry is in numerical order, which is fine, because normally they number the cars in groups. There's a whole raft of A6s at the top, and then the one A6 at the end, 911. Obviously, I wonder why they chose that number, Bruce. Why would you choose 911 if you're driving a Porsche? I can't think.
Emergency numbers. So just looking for movers and groovers. At the top of the time charts, it's staying very static. And we've got the Aston. In fact, we've got 4 different makes of cars in the top 4 now, because the massive motorsport Aston Martin with Sylvester at the wheel is up into 4th place. car 73, please check the driver ID at next pit stop. Tum. But that's what practice is for, to iron out these conundrums, these problems. That's the HRT Performance Porsche, Fabian Engels, Stephen Bonis up from Australia, Kim-Andre Hauschild and Renger van der Zande. Renger's driving both of the HRT Performance Porsche, 72 and 73.
Not at the same time.
Not at the same time. He's a busy driver. He's just come back from Laguna Seca last weekend, so much like Jeroen Bleekemolen, his contemporary, and both of them, of course, former A1GP Team Nederland racers. Somewhere they're racing around the world every weekend, basically, between March and November. So the gap is now 0.8 of a second after that quick lap just a few moments ago from the Porsche setting the pace. The Precoq Porsche top of the time charts, and we've now got, the 43rd car has gone onto track because the RKC, the Ricky Comber Honda with Tom Gannon on board is out. So we've just got, Joe reported earlier that the number 64 Porsche Lorient car had a bit of damage. That Porsche sitting in the pit garage. The GDL Team Asia Lamborghini, which was dropped right at the end of last night's free practice session, is also in the garage. And the HTM Racing Seika, but that was going around last night and going around this morning, probably just saving their tyres.
The promoter test that was going around this morning, it's diesely way, but it has, in fairness to it now, it looks a lot cleaner than this time last year. It also ran among the events, but it's, I'm surprised they haven't gone out and done a few more laps, but perhaps they think, no, we know what we're doing.
But a car with quite a rumble to it, but it's a quick round the corner, but it's very, very quick indeed down the straight. Certainly watching it this morning, standing, looking as the car has dived into Hugenholzbocht. Didn't seem to have the traction, I think we can say, that some of its rivals has, but once it gets the power down and accelerates over Hunsrück, it really starts to wind it up and down the start-finish straight with, I'm just trying to remember what engine it's got. It's got a very large engine, and it's a 4.2 litre V8, so plenty of grunt there to be playing with. And just to let you know, driving is a Dutch trio, Henk Thijssen, Moni Krant and Ton Verkeulen. But right now nobody's driving it because it's listed 46th out of the 46 runners. Now we've got a new second fastest entry, which is the Massive Motorsport Aston Martin has moved up into second place, so he's closed the gap to just over half a second. And we've got yellow flag at turn 2. That is exit of Tarzan. And it's all well and good getting as much speed as you want down into Tarzan, but you've got to get round that super famous long right-hander. And one of the things, as Joe and I walked the circuit last night, Joe was saying, this just looks as though it's still the 1970, because of course the background hasn't really changed. In fact, there's a bit more gravel trap down there, of course, at the first corner, but it is banked and it cups the cars in the palm of its hand. You then have to go through that twisting section over the top. But Joe, your thoughts?
Was it 77 or 78 when Andretti took Hunt around the outside of Tarzan, and there was furor because Hunt was claiming you can't overtake around the outside, and Andretti said something along the lines of, we do where I'm from.
Yeah, Nazareth. Yes. Yeah, no, but there was never a dull Dutch Grand Prix. There always was something happening. It's just some circuits are the right shape to provide entertaining racing, and this has always been the case here. So Aston Martin in second place at the moment from Massive Motorsports.
I suppose just a case of us being as old as we are, Bruce. Another image synonymous with Zandvoort is Gilles Villeneuve dragging the Ferrari T4 around with the rear quarter hanging from it, dangling from it. Brought it back on 3 wheels after going off. I think it was on the outside of Tarzan as well.
Yeah, and it wasn't just brought it back. He brought it back so fast you were convinced the car was just going to disintegrate. But the front end was up, the back end was down, sparks coming out of the back of it. And of course, René Arnoux going for a cartwheel in 1982 down at Tarzan as well. That's one of the sort of iconic images of the age.
Of course, the circuit was a lot different then. We've got a more sanitised infield section now, with them having to reduce the circuit pretty much in half. But I think they had to reduce it half in area, but in length it's actually 0.1 kilometre longer than the original course, and they've done a cracking job because they've kept the character of that final turn, which is a very fast sweeping right-hander which leads into that longish straight past the pits and into the braking area. And I think that's why we had great Grand Prix here. is because of the nature of the final turn in the first turn, which led, you know, if you came through and you've got the momentum, you could then have a good slipstream or outbraking into Tarzan, and that's why there was always lots of place changes.
And in fact, that's also why, at the moment, it's not quite as a sweeping corner, the final corner at the start-finish straight, but at the corner before it, Kummerbocht, is quite tight. But if you get it right, you can really maximise that advantage to the final corner, Arie Loendijk-bocht. But if you get it wrong, you will see cars over the course of 12 hours getting it wrong and going into that deep gravel bed there. But of course, the temptation is to get as much speed through there so you can build on it and then all the way down the start-finish straight. And it's still, in its current iteration, is a plenty long enough start straight down to Tarzanbocht, and then, as I said, you get cupped if you're lucky. If you're going too fast, of course, you can go straight on into the gravel at turn 1. But it's always entertaining. And even this morning, we were just looking over the refueling area. Of course, that's not in the pits; it's beyond the pits for Creventic events. And just leaning down on a counter, on a bar, but not with any beer, I hasten to add, or even a coffee at that point.
No,
looking across the bay down to Tarzan with the dunes on the outside, the sun shining, and really all was well with the world, Nick.
Yeah, it's marvellous. I must admit, I was thinking we really should have just plumped for the ice cream. We remained professional there, weren't we, in trying to see what was going on and set things up. But it's, I think it's all right, really. I think the whole of Europe's having good weather, so we're not ladling on when people are staring into a freezing Friday afternoon. So it's just lovely here. It's lovely everywhere else. I must admit, I didn't realise that Joe was actually wearing another item of clothing in the pit lane, which is his anorak, which he's got zipped right up at the moment, which is nice to know. I kind of feeling very left out with your reminiscent. I was around in the early 80s. I've here to forgotten them all. I've forgotten the whole of the early 80s. I used to watch the races every week, but I don't remember any of this.
But I can assure you guys, I've tried taking it off over the years, but hey, it gets me to where I am now, so why not?
Okay, my sort of encyclopedic knowledge of Grand Prix racing doesn't really begin about 1988. Even though I went to a lot of races prior to that, and went to every British Grand Prix.
That's about when mine starts going downhill, really. All the older stuff seems to stick so much more. But it does when you're younger. When you're a teenager or even pre-teen, you lap it up, everything you can get.
Weren't you just there for the corporate hospitality, though, Nick? Back in the British Grand Prix? Were you with us on your camp chairs up against the fence?
No. I actually, my first paying gig at a motor race was in 1976, the age of 11.
Boy Scout, I think.
Boy Scouts. The Scouts, we were employed, just breaking the thing, we were employed as car park attendants at Brands Hatch. But luckily, my dad did the organising, and there were 2 jobs which weren't standing in the car park all day, and I got one of them.
And what was it?
I was checking tickets on the stand, grandstand. So yeah, they employed 11-year-olds.
Stairwell.
It's like, this is the quality of child labour at Brands Hatch. Yeah. 11-year-olds are checking the tickets. It's like, oh, for goodness sake.
Stairwell monitor at the tower or something.
But yeah, it was great, and I also got to watch the whole Grand Prix from a grandstand just above Paddock Corner.
What year did you say? 76.
76, first one.
Yeah, that was the Grand Prix of the year, wasn't it?
Didn't realise how significant it was. Obviously, I vaguely remember the protest. Thinking, this is happening every race then.
You probably thought they were all shouting at you when they were trying to protest to get much closer at the front of the times now, because we've got Nikolai Silvest top for the massive motorsport Aston Martin, 1 minute 43.7, so just under a fifth of a second ahead of the Alfred Renauer Porsche. So times definitely chopping around. We've had a good session of running, but we've got another 33 minutes until the end of the session. Who else is making a move up the time charts? The IDEX Sport Mercedes was up in about 5th, and it's really not, and it's up to 8th at the moment, down in 8th at the moment. It's really not helpful where it says P. Lafargue, because they have 2 P. Lafargues in the car, so we never have any idea which of the brothers it is on board at that point. We have to find a different labelling system, but anyhow, they're making improvements. So we've got how many cars under 1 minute 50? We have the top 16 cars under 1 minute 50, so that was sort of a good time at the start of the day.
What was the fastest supercar time again?
It was either 1 minute 37.9 or 38.9, but anyhow, we're not quite there yet. Yellow flag at turn 7, which should be Hunsrück. I can't quite see that. I can almost pull my cable too far and break the microphone, but not do that. I'll detach myself. But that's you go out of the rise, out of Hugenhoff's box, over Hunsrück, and it could be there where you're just starting to get into the snaking part of the section, going wide. So we probably won't have any improved lap times for a while. Cars starting to come into the pits, but massive motorsport Aston Martin having a very good session in the hand of Nikolai Silvest for the all-Danish crew. Sorry, not all Danish, because it's not Christian Poulsen, it's Roland Poulsen in the car, who's from Sweden. We're there on top by 0.179 of a second, then a second back to the third-ranked car, which is Peter Schmidt in the car collection Audi. And now we've got code 60, car 68 in the gravel at turn 7. That's the APO Sports. Alex Osborne, James May, Paul May, Porsche, all English crew there. And they've slowed their progress by sticking it in the gravel. Just trying to see with the light reflecting off our timing screens who's in 68 at the moment.
Oh,
it's Alex Osborne in about 17th place. So another chance. The first one we thought was just a practice, but in fact practice code 60, but it was not, because car 125, the Seat, was off, and now 68 Porsche has gone off and is in the gravel at turn 7. So
oh yes, we can see it on the track cams there.
Yes, well hooked up. In fact, it's where you go. It's the exit of Rob Slottermacher. So you've gone over the top of Hunsrück, and then you arc to the left and then keep turning right, and you're still climbing until you get to a point just before Schevelach, and then you drop down deeply through the dunes.
That's a situation of running out of braking tons, or perhaps a car running out of braking tons, and he's now at 0 damage, sitting in the gravel going, oh, damn.
Yeah, well, I don't know where the closest gate is. In fact, it's just beyond the gap at Rob Slottermacher box, where we have one of the many sort of cut-throughs on the circuit, because like many circuits, of course, you can have quite a few derivations of Zandvoort now, and there's a cut-through for the sort of intermediate length track. You double back at Rob Slottermacher bocht and then come down towards the Hans Ernst bocht and turn through the final few corners, rather than going through, to me, one of the best parts of the circuit, which is up over the top down through Schevelach to Mastersbocht. Then it gets a bit tighter again, but clearly just ran a little wide, and then the gravel gobbled up car number 68. So the Porsche sitting in the gravel at the moment.
Been pulled back quite successfully by the tow truck.
They're quick in there.
And they'll obviously try and get the service vehicle off the road. Hopefully they've learned some lessons about, well, they called this one very quickly. They had obviously had some problems at Mugello when they didn't call a code 60 fast enough, and resulted in the leading car at the time being significantly wrecked. I think it's the best word for that. I think it's certainly past damaged into wrecked.
Well, that was a very tidy clean-up then. It was also a bit helpful by doing it right by just past a gate where the rescue vehicles sit halfway around the lap. So Alex Osborne back on his way, probably dropping gravel as he does, to complete the remaining half lap, and then hopefully we'll have the code 60 withdrawn fairly shortly. But obviously the marshals will be looking to see how much gravel is being dropped, and this is their opportunity to sweep it clear. But in fact, most of the cars have taken this occasion to come back into the pit lane, and it's a busy place as Joe stands down there. I don't know if he's in the sun or he's in the shade, but he's going to be pacing himself, otherwise his forehead will be glowing like a Belisha beacon by the end of the day. Joe?
How about a step into the shade, guys? Like you say, I'm having to pace myself with the amount of shade of whatever shade of red I'm going to end up. But no, I stepped across off the pit lane when the code 60 went out, people came in. We've got a lot of bedding in the brake pads and the like, so quite a bit of servicing going on the pit apron, and we've got a kind of a twin two-layer, as you can probably see from your position, guys. We've got 2 rows of cars lining up on the pit apron, both one line on the outside, one line on the inside, because it is a very, very cramped pit lane when the whole field gets an opportunity to come into the pits like we have now. I can't really see this happening during the race, because when we do get a code 60, there are all sorts of various rules and regs which we'll go into in greater detail later, with regards to how much you can refuel, what exactly you can do to the car when you pit under code 60. So it's unlike other endurance racing when, under yellow it pays to get in the pits and lose as little track time, whilst the pace behind the pace car or the yellow flag period or whatever it is slower out on track. But it's not quite the same at the 24-hour series races. Slightly different, and we'll probably go into that a lot later this afternoon when we get into the race, and it's kind of prevalent to talk about.
Welcome back to Zandvoort. The sun's still shining, cars still going around in this final 1 hour practice session ahead of qualifying. That's going to be quick fire, because today we fit in practice, 1 hour, qualifying, split into 2 half-hour sessions according to class, and then at 4 o'clock this afternoon we go racing. So you have the whole spectrum of driver behaviour, perhaps, through the course as they work through their programme. Of course, qualifying is fantastic to put yourself on the very front of the grid. It's not the be-all and end-all when you're going to go racing for 12 hours. Not 12 hours today, I hasten to add. We have a curfew here at Zandvoort. We have 3 hours this afternoon, and the cars are put into Parc Fermé, and then we come back tomorrow refreshed, hopefully, for 9 hours of racing. But the good news, it's going to be sunny all weekend, because this is a circuit that does sunny very well. The other end is not so good, Nick. Have you dried out from last year?
Just about, yes. The trench foot's finally been cured by a severe course of antibiotics and, love and tender attention of various nursing staff. But, yeah, it's a fabulous day. A little bit of breeze to take the edge off it. The quite substantial number of spectators are sitting happily on the dunes rather than hunkering down inside them as they were last year. And joining us in the pit lane for this first session, it's Joe Bradley. And Joe is enjoying the weather, but also telling us what the boys are doing as they go through their routines.
The weather is absolutely glorious, and if you just look across from the pits, a scene that you'll see nowhere else in the world, but people sitting on a sand dune overlooking the front start-finish straight, only at Zandvoort. Literally a track that has been laid through the sand dunes, forming the beach on the North Sea coast of Amsterdam. This is the seaside resort for Amsterdam, I believe, and we got to partake in a bit of ambience last night, didn't we, gents?
We did.
We drank it all up.
Yes, this is the Margate or the Clacton of Amsterdam, do you think?
Well, being from the north, I kind of class as the Whitley Bay of Amsterdam as our. Are we in a position to grab some interviews
yes,
now?
We are. Yes, we are.
Right, I'll work on that whilst I bathe in this sunshine. Interesting to see when there's a shaded area right in front of the garages, which is slowly disappearing as the sun comes round. So this is, considering it's now just after 1 o'clock, the race tomorrow will go to 6:20. So I would imagine pretty much, the last third of the race is going to be in complete sunshine in the pit lane. So there is going to be no respite.
Thanks very much, Joe. We appears to have gone down a little bit there. Just waiting while it keeps going. So fastest at the moment, the massive motorsport Aston Martin. But look out for Tom Onslow Cole. He's just taken over the Ram Racing Mercedes, which is 5th on the timesheets. And if we have no further interruptions, I expect that to see that picking its way up to the front of the timing order. But at the moment, bragging rights to Poulsen in the massive motorsport Aston Martin. Second fastest is Daniel Alleman for Porsche. And then Lance David Arnold has taken over the Hofer Racing Mercedes and is 3rd fastest.
So once again, a very varied and exciting entry within the Hankook 12 Hours of Zandvoort. We've got a slightly less top-end bias. It's 46 cars. I think 10 of those are A6s, with a lot of new to us teams or returning for the year. A good example of that is the Diesel Seeker, which is a sports car orientated, it looks a bit like a 1980s idea of a sports car, running a diesel Audi engine. We've also got a number of the usual suspects who do to turn up in these smaller classes. Obviously, what's always a ridiculous plethora of Porsches. And the interesting thing is that we so far in this session have 2 Code 60s, both of which are very minor recovery. So already the very efficient Creventic rescue teams have been in action. We've just seen Tom Onslow Cole and the Ram Racing Mercedes, a new fastest time, 1:42.5, which is 1.2 seconds faster than the next car round. So Tom in that Mercedes SLS, Mercedes AMG as it's called now, much quicker. Finally probably got a clear run and was able to put down that sort of time. Just a few other fastest that's just been recorded in 4th place. Lance David Arnold in the Hofer Racing did it, and also 1:46 for one of the Lafargues, the IDEC Sport.
Gentlemen.
Good performance by Freddie Endwell, the 991, currently running 6th overall. Joe in the background there.
Yeah, I can hear Joe.
Gentlemen, I've got the culprit who brought out that Code 60 there, Alex Osborne in the 68 Porsche. Bit of a harmless trip into the sand dunes for you there, Alex. No harm.
Well, I thought I'd just have a little play in the sand. I thought we're here at the beach, so let's play in the sand. But no, it's a new car this weekend, so we're just chasing the setup a little bit with it. But no, it's fun and just got it a little bit loose, just playing with it. But no accident damage, so yeah, we live to fight on.
Have you been here before?
Yeah, we've done 2 races here. Like, we were here with Creventec last year with the other Porsche, and we did a Brit GT and a Ginetta. So we've done a good few races here and had a good few laps. So we know the track reasonably well. But this weekend we've got our new 991, so new car. So we're just trying to learn it and sort of ease it in gently as you speak. So
yeah, as you do. Bit of a crammed day, isn't it? Practice, qualifying straight into the race. Leaves you little or no time to adjust things if things are wrong.
Yeah, exactly. If you go the wrong way, I'm chasing. I can lose half an hour trying to change the setup each way. So it's good that it's a short program because obviously we get lots of racing in one day. So it's a lot more bang for your buck. But sometimes, yeah, it's nice to be a bit more spaced out. But it is what it is. We deal with it, and well, we start the race later on. So it'll be good.
Great stuff. No harm, no foul. Alex Osborne there in the 68 Porsche.
Well, thanks, Joe. Good thing he's not in the 65 Porsche, because the team manager of that one has to be reporting to the race director. Get your telling off in early. So, as Nick just mentioned a moment ago, Tom Onslow Cole has gone top, as I suggested. I'll just put that point in Bruce's point bag. 1 minute 42.599 seconds. So he's just over 1 second faster now than the Aston Martin from Massive Motorsport. Daniel Anneman, third fastest still in the Precoat Herberth Porsche. Hofer Racing, Christian Frankenhout now has taken over the number 10 Hofer Mercedes. And he is sitting in fourth place. Felbermeyer Audi from Car Collection is fifth. HRT Performance with Fabian Engel is the best of the 991 class cars in sixth overall. So he's mixing it with some of the very quickest of the A6 top class runners. Further down the chart, Xavier Martin has just taken over the second car in the 991 class, which from Charles Espenlaub, which is a wonderful liveried MRS GT Racing Porsche with the flowing representation of a waving, blowing stars and stripes on the flanks of the car. And also going well in the 991 class, down 2 places further back is the B2F competition. It's neither of the Fretin brothers. It's their teammate Michel Mitius, who is 12th fastest overall. But at the moment, bragging rights, the number 30 Ram Racing Mercedes, Tom Onslow Cole, slotting in some good lap times at the front. And we're still waiting for the final 3 cars to come out. We may not see the 64 Porsche or the 77 Lamborghini, because we'd heard that they took in some damage. The Lamborghini last night and the Porsche this morning. The HTM Racing Seika, we think they're just saving their tyres. But we've had 43 of the 46 starters. And at the moment, the gap between first and 43rd, which is the Team Sally Racing Renault, is 22 seconds. But of course, a very different tool, the Mercedes that Ram Racing have brought along, the latest SLS AMG, compared to the little Renault Clios. And the Team Sally Racing number 172 is the slowest of all. But that's down in the A2 class. And that's very much the essence of Creventic Racing. We have a huge range of cars, and so it really is something for everyone to come out and play at whatever vehicle they have, pretty much, and always this class competition to aim for. And of course, not everybody's going to be going for outright victory. There's not much chance you're going to do that in a Renault Clio against the Porsches, Aston Martins, Lamborghinis, and Mercedes at the top of the field. But at the moment, the fastest time, 1 minute 42.599 seconds by Tom Onslow Cole, fastest by 1.1 seconds from a Massive Motorsport Aston Martin. And again, after a few little interruptions, it was very good to hear that Alex Osborne was so upbeat as they got used to their new 991. At least he knows how it feels when it's being towed out of a gravel trap now, so he's got that out of the way. Other people improving, have to look quite a long way down the chart, almost 20th, well, 18th in fact. But does this driver know the circuit well or not? Korreuser? I think he does. Way back when, in the 70s fused into the 80s, he was of course taking on and really scaring the likes of Ayrton Senna in EFTA Formula 4 2000 races here, and Joe down in the pits.
Yeah, just keep an eye out on track. The number 911 Porsche has just gone out early leader and very early in this practice session. It's been in for some adjustments, probably performance setup work being done on the 911. Currently in third. Keep an eye out for a fast lap from that car.
Thanks very much, Joe. In fact, there's so many cars to keep an eye out, and even just looking out of the window from our commentary box, I'm still seeing some that I didn't even spot this morning when I was looking down the pit lane. But of course, 46 cars, there aren't 46 pit garages, so some have been stacked in behind others. But by and large, we've got 2 cars in most of the garages, but we're closing down towards the end of this session. It's just under 7 minutes to go. Korreuser has just brought his black and gold Lotus Evora into the pits, black with 2 gold stripes. Obviously, Nick Damon, black and gold, famous colours for Lotus.
Indeed, from a sponsor who can no longer be named, I think, anymore.
No, quite right, but it was, we can say it by its letters, can't we?
JPS Special, of course, as the entry, of course.
In fact, it was, indeed.
Theoretically, it was always a kind of a pedant's argument that actually one of Lotus's World Championships was actually won by JPS Special because they were the official entrant. And so they haven't got that many Constructors' Championships. The sort of people you punch in the face normally when they start.
Nick's got a lot of friends, you know. But yes, it is a pedant, very much the pedant's corner. I'm not a fan of it. The car was clearly what it was. It was a Lotus. So let's not mind you, of course, Lotus, if you think about it, its history in Formula One and its latter-day history, it's been 3 teams. And how many teams has Benetton
nil
been?
now.
Yeah, exactly.
It's 0. Basically, at one point, everyone was Lotus, and now no one's Lotus.
Exactly so. Well, now we've...
the question really is, what is the Lotus position?
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, there'll only be one person in the commentary box shortly, and Nick Damon will no longer be breathing. Joe, save us, please.
It's like I've had this broom,
yes.
or this brush,
Yeah.
for 40 years. It's had 3 new heads and 4 new shanks, but it's still the original.
Quite so.
Because Mercedes is Brawn with Honda, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So how many world champions? It's still, I mean, personnel move around, don't they? You know, Adrian Newey was at McLaren and he was at Red Bull. It's like,
Well, it's all happening at Red Bull today, isn't it? And yesterday with Max
Yes,
Verstappen getting the drive, Javi Puigdemont leaving the team. And anyhow, meanwhile, here at Zandvoort, it's getting closer at the front. It was 1.1 seconds. It's now 0.74 of a second because Christian Frankenhurt has gone second fastest in the Hofer Racing Mercedes. So we've got 2 Mercedes at the top, ahead of the Aston Martin, and a Porsche, then an Audi. Porsche and Mercedes, so we've got a great mixture of cars up at the top. Still the 3 cars parked in the garage, but everybody's starting to wind up to some quickish times, but we're into the final 5 minutes now of this final free practice. And then we have very, very little in time after that for the top class cars to gather their thoughts. Session ends at 1:20 local time. It's 1:15 now, and they go out for qualifying, for half an hour of quickfire qualifying, just 10 minutes after the end of this session.
Of course, qualifying is in 2 sections. We've got the fast boys out first, interestingly. So the SP3, SP2, SPX 991 and A6. They're going to be the faster cars out first. And after a very brief gap, because that's all you ever get in these events, a very brief gap, we then have the start of the second session, which is for the slower cars. And then after that, there's which we'll sit down and watch. It's a supercar race, which is great fun.
gents.
Joe.
I've got boys out in the. I'm going to have to change my position so my microphone works, Cole.
It's working fine.
You guys happy with the car for qualifying? Because you haven't got any time to do anything about it, have you?
No, not really. Yeah. We have to run in the drive here already last year. Available to from to I did a couple of you have it have the speed.
And what's about the lap round Zandvoort? Because you would know them.
Well,
you're not going to give them away, are you?
No, we won last year and we want to win it again. So, but it's a long race. It's a nice race, beautiful track, and the weather will be good.
Yeah, it's going to be a great weekend. Thanks, Cole. We'll leave you to focus on qualifying. I think I was out there, guys, so I'm stretching the cord a little bit too tightly, I think.
Yeah, it came good at the end. It came good. Well, I tell you,
story of my life.
I tell you, well, that's at the beginning, Joe. I tell you who is coming good, though. Christian Frankenhurt. He went into second place. He's now closed the gap to just under a fifth of a second. So he's really putting the pressure on. It's only free practice, but showing that he has got the pace in the number 10 Hofer Racing Mercedes, one of the 2 AMG Mercedes there from the team. But in fact, their lineup, when you look at down, 2 of them. There are 3 drivers who entered in both the number 9 and number 10. That's Michael Kroll, daughter Chantal Kroll, and Kenneth Heyer. But the 9 car then has its driver lineup completed by Ben Cooper and Roland Eggerman, and the 10 is completed by the man at the wheel, Dutch driver Christian Frankenhout and Lance David Arnold. So effectively 7 drivers sharing those 2 cars.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interesting thing would be whether they do what they did a lot of last year, which was max.
Wait and see.
Completely minimise the amount of time the gentleman or gentlewoman drivers got to go in and rotated Frankenhout and Heyer and whoever else has a faster hot shoe. That, given the fact they've now got the second SLS out for the first time this year in the Hofer Racing team, it does mean they can get the track time for everyone else and then see where they are and perhaps throw either Chantal or Michael Kroll into the car to get enough points for the overall championship. But that's the car championship. Of course, the driver championship, it doesn't matter. It's just it's when you're in.
Yeah. Exactly. So another improvement up into 5th place now is the car collection Audi that's been at the top end most of the session. It's one of their 2 Audis, and that's Horst Felbermeyer Jr. Well, he's a driver who knows Audis very well. So the 33 entry up into 5th place ahead of the Lafargue. Lafargue's in the EDEX Sport Mercedes, but at the moment by 0.173 of a second, it's Tom Onslow Cole for Ram Racing, ahead of the better of the 2 Hoffer Racing entries, the SLS Mercedes, and a handful of other drivers at the tail end of what's nice to see, a 46-car field, just slightly improving their lap times. Just over a minute to go until the checkered flag will come out, and I would think a lot of these drivers, particularly in the large class cars, the faster cars, will be coming in now, just so they've got enough time to draw breath before we get to 13:30 local time here in beautiful sunny weather in the Netherlands, and their qualifying session will start for half an hour. They've got time, but it is a question of maximising your brakes, I feel.
Yeah, they got this 10-minute session just to let everything cool down, put a new set of boots on, assess where you're at. But it's a very condensed program. They have had some of them a bit of free practice yesterday, or promoted test practice. They've had a couple of hours they want to do it as we think. There are a lot of local drivers here, a lot of people who know the track well. So there's not really. It's about getting a bit of a setup and getting comfortable. It's not about learning the circuit. But it is that question always, isn't it? When you come into an endurance race, just how important is qualifying? And there are bragging rights. There's no points attached to it. So they probably, first or fourth, is it that important? You don't want to have a nightmare and get mired in the back of the grid and have to spend your first 20 minutes getting through the rest of the track, the rest of the pack. But beyond that, there's a few bit of bragging rights to go. And Josie tells how important pole position is.
I would imagine that the only thing that is a variable between qualifying and a race setup will be a tyre pressure. I can't see anybody really getting the setup bed out to change from a qualifying session to a race setup. So I don't think there is that much significance other than bragging rights, Nick. I would agree with you. Yeah,
and keeping yourself clear as the checkered flag comes out to end the final 1 hour practice session. It's keeping yourself clean as you run through Tarzan on the opening lap, and also it's not just Tarzan, you've got to keep it through Gerlach-Bocht, where the track is very, very narrow before it hooks down the hill right into Hugenhorst-Bocht. Once you've kept yourself out of trouble through those first 3 corners, then it will space out, but it's very, very tight here on the opening lap. And Joe, you're going to love it.
I remember actually last year, because even though the weather was awful, I did actually go, the thing to do is go and watch it from the roof.
Yes, if you haven't been to Zandvoort, there's a very broad roof above the pit building, and everyone's on the start-finish straight side, probably holding their beer or coffee, and then they run to the back, and like a loom in a shuttle, or a shuttle in a loom, the other way around, and they get busy.
Yeah, usually something you can also do at Rockingham. It also has a roof which they let people stand on and go from one side to the other.
You used to be able to do that at Snetterton, but the trouble is if you ran to the other side, you'd be looking at the paddock, not the track. So really no use at all. So at the end of that 1 hour practice session, just ahead of qualifying, which starts in under 10 minutes. It's super fast. It's Ram Racing with their Mercedes. Best lap, just remember this, 1 minute 42.599 seconds, and we'll get to see, hopefully, some rather quicker times than that when it comes to qualifying. But as we keep pointing out, it's not the be-all and end-all here at Zandvoort ahead of the 12 hours. That will be starting later this afternoon. But still, for bragging rights, it's Ram Racing at the top of the charts. 0.1 of a second behind them is the better placed of the 2 Hofer Racing Mercedes. Then the best Aston Martin, well, you know why it's the best, it's the only Aston Martin from Massive Motorsport. 1 minute 43.7 their best, so they're 1.1 seconds down, just a shade ahead of the Herberth Racing Porsche, which Daniel Alleman did such a good job in to be 4th fastest. Still in the A6, the top class is the EDEX Sport Mercedes with the Lafargue brothers, 1 minute 44.136, so they're 1.5 seconds down overall, and a blink behind them, the car collection Audi. So plenty of variety in cars. In fact, we've got a Lamborghini, the Lippert entry went up to 7th fastest at the end. So we've got Mercedes, Aston Martin, Porsche, Audi and Lamborghini. 5 makes in the top 7 places. Then the best of the 991 class Porsches. And at the very end, it was still Fabian Engel, 8th fastest overall HRT performance to be top of the time charts in that class. Looking down to the other classes, further down we go to SP2 in 14th place overall, the LMS Racing Audi TT, which to my eye actually, I was looking down onto it from the roof of the pit building yesterday, fantastic with sort of gunmetal coloured sides and blue bonnet. The Audi TT looks absolutely fantastic. That's fastest in SP2. SP3 is topped by, we haven't talked about this yet, the RCR Project's KTM Crossbow. That's 18th fastest overall. That looks great. And the top touring car racer, the Seat Leon from Team Blakemolen with Sebastian Blakemolen at the wheel. He's 20th fastest atop of that class. Then you have to go to the furthest screen, the second screen, to get all the way down to 34th place and top BMW Cup class, 34th. So that's the end of practice, and we almost have no time for coffee. In fact, we do have no time for coffee. We're going to sign out now and then come back in qualifying, which will start when I next blink my eyes. Straight on. But will they be as quick as those supercarts we saw this morning, who certainly entertained us? So Ram Racing, they had the bragging rights at the head of practice, the end of practice, that 1 hour session that brought the morning into the afternoon. Sun still high in the sky, flag still alternately limpid or just blowing gently around the circuit. And always with the Creventic series, you have the flags of the whole world out there, because we have drivers from all around the world.
Bruce, you have actually got optimum conditions out there. You've got a track temperature which is quite hot, an ambient temperature that's got to be towards 24 degrees, so that's going to give us probably a 30-degree track temperature. But you've got that cooling breeze from the North Sea. We're on the North Sea coast, just outside of Amsterdam here. Literally, this Zandvoort track is laid down in the sand dunes on the beach near Amsterdam, and it really is perfect conditions. Cool air for the engines to be at their optimum, and track conditions perfect. Perfect day to go racing.
And just to give you a sighter, as a couple of cars come into the pits at the end of their outlap, you have the beach, you have the road behind the beach, you have a sand dune, you have a dip, there's a caravan park over the second sand dune, and you're onto the track on that banking, looking down over Tarzan. You're that close to the sea.
Quite an atmosphere out there in the pit lane, because you look right ahead of you. Yes, we've got a huge grandstand. I remember seeing, that grandstand with as the backdrop to, James Hunt in the Hesketh 308, winning his first Grand Prix, holding off Nicky Lauda down that straight for lap after lap at the 1975 Dutch Grand Prix. And then you've got people sat in the dunes, on the sand dunes, overlooking the first corner at Tarzan. Another corner that has such history. Formula One Grand Prix history here at the Dutch Grand Prix. Mario Andretti going around the outside of James Hunt. René Arnoux going spiralling into the barriers up there. Gilles Villeneuve pulling, the back end of his Ferrari apart and then dragging it around the rest of the track. So much history here at Zandvoort.
It just keeps coming as well. Down in the pit lane, Nick is getting busy. Nick?
I have got busy, and I've wandered down to the GDL pit, and I walked in a very sensible way. Feet in front of each other, nothing special. Unfortunately, I'll get Sebastian if he can get his camera in and have a look. Gianluca De Lorenzi is the bald man to the right. We had a very impressive piece of sign language. I did the line under my throat, is it dead? He did it back, shrugged his shoulders. That car is going no more after a shunt in the promoter test. Let's see if, hopefully Sebastian's got that on camera for you. It's the car at the back we need.
Yes, we're looking for a Lamborghini, not a Renault Clio, but we're not that fussy.
I'm not sure how far we can get in and still get a transmission, but it's this one here. It's the Lamborghini that's your problem. So I'll see if you get a picture of it up. As you see, it's in many pieces as the cars carry on going. Well, I think actually you can hear me, which is remarkable.
We can hear you loud and clear, so that's absolutely great. We're not getting the pictures at the moment. We're in fact riding on board. Fabulous footage. Riding with the 73 HRT Performance, one of 2 cars entered. Is a bright green and white car, 911 Cup Porsche, going down and through a great section of track. We've just seen it going through Tarzan. Now it's going through the snaking section of Gerlachbocht, and then you have to get your car very tidy on the exit of Gerlachbocht, because then you're turning straight into Hugenholzbocht. And certainly for first-time Zandvoort visitor Joe Bradley, that's really intriguing corner.
That is the iconic corner for Zandvoort, isn't it? Around the back of the pits, and it really is very tight around there. Just the width of a road, to a two-way road between the outside of that corner, which is barrier. There isn't any runoff there. You don't want to get it wrong.
But as we said this morning, you're effectively aiming straight at the barrier.
Yeah, straight at the barrier. Don't hit it. Turn left, and then go up the stairs, up the hill, and that incline out of that Hugenholz hairpin. TV does not do that justice. No. It is a stair climb out of there.
And there's a very, very narrow strip between the start-finish straight and Hugenholzbocht. It's basically one car width plus a pedestrian pavement width, and there's a gate, and you can stand there. We were doing that last night, just looking at that shot with the cars going up over the dune, the sky, and you lose them.
I'm going to zip up the Anorak. Late 60s through the 70s. And this is the place where that engine made its debut. June the 4th, 1967. There you go. I've got the anorak on. I've got the hood up. What more do you want?
So when Joe gets back home to Sunderland, he'll be getting out 5 Days of Summer, which is the movie
yes,
made
indeed.
about that.
It's got a bit of poke.
Nick, down in the pits.
Yes, answering a question we asked in the previous session about the Seika, which hopefully Sebastian can show. This is the sort of home-build sports car in a lovely shade of bronze that ran here last year. It's diesel-powered. As he goes back, you'll see it's got one of the worst problems you can have. It's a mystery electrical issue. And there's a man fiddling with wires in the ECU. And that is the sort of thing that, if an engine goes bang, I'll get a new engine. If a gearbox goes wrong, put a new gearbox in. When the electrics stop working, and they're in an moment. And of course, they're going to miss out on qualifying. They should be out here at the moment in the SB3 class. But more importantly, they've only got about 2 hours till the race starts.
Thanks very much. Yes, and indeed, that really is the worst, particularly when you're doing practice qualifying in the first part of the race, all rolled together in one day. We said look out for Tom Onslow-Cole. He's fastest for Ram Racing, and he's about 2 seconds faster than he was in that free practice. So clearly, he's dialing himself in, and the car's got a new set of tyres. He's fastest by just under 0.8 of a second from Mark Basseng, who knows Audis very well indeed. In the car collection R8, he is second fastest. Christian Franken, who showed so strongly, the Dutch driver, towards the end of the free practice session, is third. They're all covered by a second, and then you go back another second. Just is the massive motorsport Aston Martin, this time with Elgaard at the wheel. But at the moment, bragging rights as we're nearly 10 minutes into this half-hour quick-fire qualifying session. It's Ram Racing at the top of the charts, the number 30.
Be interesting for Nick to find out, just for instance, the number 30 Ram Racing car of the Ram Racing Mercedes of Tom Onslow-Cole is now back in the pits. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do to the car before its next run. Are they going to slap a new set of tyres on it? Are they going to cool the tyres off? Because that can get a little bit of more life out of the tyre by taking them off and pouring water over them, cooling them down, putting the rubber through a heat cycle. And as I speak, Mark Basseng has gone quickest. Yeah. He's gone quicker by just under 0.2 of a second. So 1 minute 40.164 is our provisional pole time. Tom Onslow-Cole with 140.320. He's currently sat in the pits, but I'm sure a few tweaks going on there at Ram Racing to eke out a little bit of more pace from the car.
And it's a very strong driver lineup. Roel Goetter's not playing this weekend, but Stuart Hall, Paul Wise and Tom Onslow-Cole. It's not just about the lap time the car can do, it's the best lap times that all of them can manage that will really dictate how well that car goes in the race. And down in the busy man down in the pits, let's hear from Nick Damon.
Just saying that the Ram Racing car has just gone out, and the sum total of the work done it was opening the door and waving it a bit. So that's what they've done. They've cleaned the air out. I don't know what happened in the car, whether Tom had a curry last night or whatever, but it has been freshly aired and sent back out again.
I would imagine it's very hot in those cars. Like I said, what would you say the temperature was down there? I would estimate 24 degrees.
Hang on. Oh yeah, 24.
Yeah, definitely, isn't it?
Very pleasant.
Very pleasant. I'm not complaining.
I've been carrying a shade strategy later in the day.
Yes, because the shade of the pit garages is going to disappear as we go into the afternoon. And there's that iconic shot into Tarzan, which is the passing place of this circuit. I mean, there are a lot more passing places than what the original track brought. Now with the new, I say new, it's not that new, is it? It's been like this for a few years now, 20 years or so. Last Grand Prix here was 1985, so that's a long time ago. But Tarzan lends itself to a good overtaking opportunity. You can make it as clean as you want, coming out of that final sweeping right-hander at the Airy Lion Dyke bocht, and then onto the start-finish straight, getting the momentum, and then breaking into Tarzan, which is a conventional 180-degree sweeping, partially banked right-hand hairpin, and then we sweep through the S's at Gerlach bocht, and then into the Hugenholz bocht, which we've just been in car there.
That was with Klaus Werner, and it's great to see. What you see there is the incline. Until you come to Zandvoort, you don't realise there is a lot of incline. You think it might have a little bit of up and down, but there's much more than people realise. So wonderful shots from the Arthur Sport Porsche not set a really competitive time as yet, with Klaus Werner at the wheel, down towards the tail end of the groups of cars that have been out there so far. Don't forget, 46 cars due to go out for the 2 qualifying sessions, but as Nick explained, the Seika's not going anywhere, and nor, sadly it sounds, for the whole weekend will be the GDL Team Asia Lamborghini. So we've got 45 or possibly 44 cars that will be hoping to qualify for the race, and then we'll just have to cross our fingers and see how many make it out onto the grid. There is the 55 Aston Martin massive motorsport car creeping back in slowly.
Yes, now he's one of our possible potential pole position protagonists. He's currently in 4th place. Who's at the wheel of that? Is it? It's Casper Elgaard, I think, at the wheel of that car.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. He's in 4th place, 1 minute 42.2. So he's got a chunk of time to find before he does have any look at pole position. He's going very slowly on that outlap. He's just come out of the pits, and he's going very slowly indeed. Now, I'm not sure if that is deliberate or whether he's got a problem, because an outlap is all about getting some heat into your tyres, or maybe he's wanting to save the tyre, depending on the characteristics of that car. He's currently out now, just going through the right-hander at Masters Box. Very, very quick right-hand corner, bringing you into the into the braking area for Box 9, and then out of Box 9, he's just going through Box 9 now, as he turns in through the right-hander.
Well, the target time he's got to aim for is 1 minute 40.164. The best the car's done is 2 seconds slower than that. So we'll wait and see if there's a problem with the car or if he's going to be able to go for a quick time. But at the moment, it's Mark Basseng top in the number 33 Audi R8 from Car Collection. Second fastest, Tom Onslow-Cole in the Ram Racing Mercedes, second fastest. We have half the qualifying session done, 15 minutes still to go. So that was the top 2, and we're just waiting, keeping an eye on that massive motorsport Aston Martin that is lying 4th in the time charts. Casper Elgaard is out in it at the moment, but going slowly. We want to know why. At this stage, I think he's bringing it back into the pits. He's got down to the almost the penultimate corners down. He's just gone through Hans Ernstbach, which is the tight, sort of long left, if you will.
It's kind of a chicane, Bruce.
It is. But
it's a right, tight left chicane. It certainly feels like a chicane. It doesn't feel like a right-hander into a hairpin. It feels like a right-left chicane.
You're also almost blind on entry. There's a big bank on your right-hand side. You cannot see the corner until you're upon it.
You come over the brow, don't you? And then you're into the braking area for it. But that number 55, Aston, we look down onto pit road because he is coming through Kumhopbocht, and he'll be then heading down to... He'll not be negotiating Airy Lyondike Bocht. He'll be peeling off into the pit lane, I think. Is that... Yes, he is. He's right in front of us now, Bruce. There he is, the 55. So he went out, he's crawled round, he's literally crept that car round, and he's straight back into the pits. So a little mission there for Nick to see just what is wrong with the Elgaard-driven massive motorsport Aston Martin.
Yeah, well, we're halfway through qualifying. As we've said, it certainly goes so fast. You're just getting your eyes dialed in during qualifying. Number 30 is second at the moment. That's the Ram Racing Mercedes, and that's starting to wind up to some decent speed. We haven't had any quick laps for about 5 minutes now. I think that's the pattern in the half-hour qualifying session. You're putting several drivers in the car. The only mystery one has been the massive motorsport Aston Martin being brought back in, and cars out at the moment, just picking up the speed. Tom Onslow-Cole on screen, going down. You can see how bumpy it is as he gets the braking zone before Tarzan. And Tarzan is a long corner. You keep turning right, you're caught by the circuit, unless you're going too fast, but you're not caught by the circuit, you're caught by the gravel beyond. And then the wonderful sweepers of Gerlachboch behind the pits, and then down the slope into Hugenholzboch. But the good thing for the 30 Mercedes is he's got pretty clear track ahead of him. He's now got that wonderful sweeping session. Red flag. I just saw a flag out of the corner of my eye.
Oh, you know what? That is a shame for Tom Onslow-Cole, because that first part of that lap was very clean. Kept the car off the curbs. He was carrying momentum into the corner. And now as he comes out of that hairpin, and it was a textbook line, very late apex, kind of 2/3, 3/4 of the way around the corners where his clipping point was, and he was really getting a massive burst of acceleration out of Hugenholzbocht. However, at that point, the red flag has come out. We've got an incident on track which we're not aware of yet and who is indeed involved, but we'll, as soon as we find out. But the clock has stopped with just over 13 minutes remaining in this qualifying session.
So the red flag came out just as Tom Onslow-Cole was putting the power down out of Hugenholzbocht. So we're waiting, looking at all our cameras to try and see who has fallen where, looking for notification on the screen. Onslow-Cole is second fastest at the moment, just as he was winding it up. But Car Collection Audi is top of the charts, as we have the red flag here at Zandvoort. Pit lane getting crowded. Nick will be having cars coming in towards him in the pit lane. The red flag is out. Car 237 crashed at turn 14, so that's right towards the end of the lap. In fact, that should be the final corner. Again, looking at the timing screens.
237, Bruce, is the Euro Autosport BMW M3. Not sure where he is in the field. I think he's way down on our...
Right down. He's 27th fastest at the moment. He's in the SP3 class. He's where you'd expect to find them. He's not top in SP3, but he's not bottom.
Jeffrey Rademacher is the driver. Local driver from the Netherlands at the wheel of that car. That's brought out this red flag for an off at the final turn. We can virtually see the final turn. Now I get some ambient noise there from the pit lane. I think Nick might have something for us. Nick?
Let's hope so.
The pit lane itself is now absolutely packed because just as the cars all went out for their second run, they've had to crawl back in again because of the red flag. But also some of the cars which are going out for the next session, the slower cars, were just wheeling themselves onto the apron. Now, an interesting fact is that 55 Massive Motorsport has been wheeled to the back of its garage and had an A2 car, one of the little Peugeot RCZs, stuck in front of it, so he's not going anywhere. Not quite sure what the problem is. I will try and find out what that is in a second, but it's an incredibly busy packed situation here. But if the clock's still running, how much chance is there of actually restarting this?
The clock has stopped, Nick. It stopped at 13 minutes 17 still to go. KTM Crossbow is one of the last cars back in from the track, waiting for the instant at the final corner, the clear up of 237. In fact, now it's caught on screen over the state-of-the-art racing barrier. We can see it's gone nose on into the barriers, or in fact, has that just been removed there? Unusual place to lose it, Joe Bradley. You're coming through the final corner, you want to carry as much speed. I can only presume that he ran that little bit wide and just sort of eventually the car just carried on. It's not
easy.
Turning right.
If you get your turning point just a metre out and you're committed to the throttle, you've got to go with it. Or else, if you back out, that's the lap completely ruined because you're going to lose all that speed down the straight. So you're going to keep your foot in and you're going to just hope that the car finds some grip from somewhere. But unfortunately, it just runs out of road. And once you've got a wheel on the dirt, then you are at the in the hands of the gods, really. And I think it's quite common there, Bruce, because it's perhaps arguably the most important part of this circuit, because that's the speed, the momentum that you carry through that final turn is you're gonna carry that all the way down the pit straight, and it's the longest straight and the longest and the fastest section of track here at Zandvoort.
And it affects 2 laps because, of course, you'll speed through there, completing 1 lap and also key speed onto the next lap.
And you saw Tom Onslow call earlier where he was slow through the penultimate corner, and then as he came out of the penultimate corner,
well, let's hear from Nick down in the pits.
55.
55, says Nick. We know is the massive motorsport.
Indeed. We're just going to have a quick word with Casper Elgard. Casper, first of all, what brought you into the pits?
Well, we've the whole day today we had some issues with the gearbox, or changing the gears. It's sort of sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not, and we're trying to change everything but the gearbox, and it hasn't helped. So we decided to change the gearbox, and so the qualifying was for me to go out, do 1 lap, just to put us up at the top end of the grid, and then go in and start changing, because we don't have that much time before the start of the race, and it's sort of thereabout we will take to change the gearbox. So more time we have, the better.
Yeah, you've got 2 hours, 10 minutes till the race starts, or about, I suppose, 1 hour 45 till you have to be out in the pit. Can you change an Aston Martin gearbox that quickly?
Well, I know Massive Motorsport definitely have some very good guys in the crew, so they will be pushing forward, but we're never trying to change the gearbox under pressure, so time will tell, but hopefully we will. Worst case, we'll start from the pit lane, but I'm pretty sure the guys will have the car ready.
Casper, thank you very much. Now, that's good work. It took me 4 days to sort out a single overdrive problem.
Thank you. That's Nick Damon, lost in the 1960s with his Triumph TR4A. Still, you can see the red flag is blowing here on the start-finish straight. Still waiting for the car 237, the BMW, to be cleared up after going off at the exit of the final corner. But the clock on the gantry says 13 minutes, 17 seconds. Still plenty of time to set a good lap time here around Zandvoort.
Still plenty of time to change a gearbox in Aston Martin as well, and that's the challenge of these Creventic races with a packed program leading into a race. I mean, normally the kind of races we would go to, you would have a qualifying session today, and then the race would be tomorrow, and you'd have all night to change that gearbox. So you'd be just relinquishing a qualifying session. But here you are, having to take a gamble on, do we run this car until the gearbox completely destroys itself, or do we, and then run out of time to change it because the race starts at 4:30? Or 4 o'clock. What time's the race start? 4 o'clock.
No, yeah, indeed.
Yeah, 4 o'clock. So that's the challenge, isn't it? That they've had to make that decision. Right, guys, we have it. Right, the deadline is there. The clock is ticking towards that. That is the amount of time we need. That's race start. Forget qualifying. It's not important. It's a 12-hour race. This afternoon at 7 p.m., I should say this evening at 7 p.m., is all about being on that lead lap. In your class, wherever your class. In your class, being on your class lead lap is what today is all about. They would have stood no chance whatsoever if they're going to start 5 laps down or a half an hour down. So, good decision, I think. Very, very good decision there. Because it would be a shame to see that Aston Martin start with, all right, it's disadvantage starting from the pit lane, but it's not as disadvantage starting half an hour into the race, having just had to repair a gearbox.
No, exactly so. And with the long straight, not only past the grandstand here in front of the pits, but the run from Hugenholz, that's a long enough straight to get you up to Schevellack and a long stretch with the power they have. And there's enough track width out there to do passing. And in fact, even the little straight that brings us back from turn 10 down to the chicane at Hans Ernst-Bocht.
Yes.
Plenty of places to pick your way past the lower class cars and really go for it.
And the thing about
You've got to be careful.
And the thing about Zandvoort, Bruce, especially around turn 8, Mastersbocht, and turn 9, Bocht 9, aptly, it's a multi-line section of track. You can get away with being offline. You can get away with trying around the outside of a slow category car at both of those sites. And Bocht 9 especially, it's like, what is the textbook line through that corner? There isn't one. There are several. So, keeps them out of the carnage, the potential carnage of always a first lap through Tarzan and then through the sweepers at Gerlach-Bocht and then everything just sort of concertinas towards Hugenholz-Bocht. I'm looking forward to the start of the race. I think you said earlier, Joe, you could just wait and see, and I'm really excited about that first lap. Well, the sight of that first lap.
It's 3x3 all around the track,
really?
which has got enough space for 2.5 car widths.
Yes.
Pick your line. Hopefully it'll have all 4 wheels on the tarmac. So still waiting while the 237 BMW is cleared up after running off at the final corner. Just trying to look at the small screens to see the clear-up operation. Quite hard to pick out. It's right at the start of the start-finish straight, so he just got it wrong through the exit of Arie Luijendijk-Bocht. And you can imagine the sharp intake of breath. Do I lift? Do I not? No, I'm committed. I've got to hang on. Just ran out of track. So the car collection, Audi, top of the charts. That's the number 33 Audi with Mark Bassang, who knows RE LMSs very, very well indeed. Favoured Audi driver. Tom Onslow, second fastest in the Ram Racing Mercedes, but that is waiting to go. He was caught out by the red flag, but he wasn't the only one, but he just was in the right position to go for a really quick time. Good exit from Hugenholz-Bocht, and just out of the corner of his eye, he would have picked out the red flag and had a little curse.
And our next class leader is down in 6th overall. First in the 991 class, Renger van der Sande in the HRT Performance Porsche. Xavier Masson right with him, though, in 7th overall.
Yeah, that's very, very tight indeed. So car collection leading the way, still waiting for the red flag to be brought in before we go qualifying again. Now, what we haven't really seen at the top end as we're in qualifying here, half hour of qualifying interrupted by this red flag with 13 minutes remaining, is the charge of the Porsches. They showed well in the A6 class through free practice this morning. The best place of those is the Herberth entry with Robert Renauer just ahead of a sister Porsche, but it's not a sister Porsche because Renger van der Zande is the 991 class, so different performance categories.
Visually, that's a very different looking Porsche. Yeah. The van der Zande HRT Porsche is very much a Porsche Cup car, and the Renauer Porsche is very much getting towards the GTE kind of spec of Porsche 911 that we see and that we're familiar with. So different performance levels there from those two Porsches, and hence the different classes.
Indeed, and this is very much the essence of the Creventic events, not just in the Endurance Series, but the Touring Car Series that kicked off at Silverstone. Many, many classes. So it's not people all going for outright victory, but as you stressed, at the end of today, you want to be on the lead lap of your class. Doesn't matter if you're 90% of the lap behind your class leader, you stay there. But if you're 1 lap and 5 seconds, you're 1 lap, as close as 2 laps behind. Because,
Bruce, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. At 7 p.m. tonight, we halt the race. And everyone lines up on the start-finish straight, and we go into park firmer conditions. You're not allowed to do anything to the cars other than tomorrow is set your tyre pressures, which is for safety reasons, and any kind of other safety issues that might be present on the car, you're allowed to address those. But other than that, no performance setup, not allowed to touch the car, you leave them alone. So if you've got a 1 minute lead at 7 p.m. tonight, that 1 minute lead is going to go to 0 for the race start tomorrow, because we're going to start in, I believe, line astern.
At 9:20 in the morning.
At 9:20 in the morning, and we're going to race for another 9 hours. So you just want to be in that position where you're on the lead lap and you're right with the class leader, and then you go racing for another 9 hours. So, you know, yes, you might say, and we can sit here and speculate and argue that even if you're a lap down, all is not lost. And yeah, you're right, all is not lost. You've still got 9 hours to gain that back, but ideally, you don't want to be that disadvantaged. So that's what today is all about.
Well, we should have we restart in 15 seconds time. So the 62 Porsche sitting at pit exit, that's the MSG Motorsport car with the lineup of Meysam Taheri, Iranian, Ulf Wickop, German driver, Jose Manuel Balbiani from Argentina, and showing how international we are, Nico Rindelsbicher from Switzerland.
That's Sam Taheri, our friend of RadioLeMans.com. He was our sound and vision guy at the Gulf 12H in Abu Dhabi.
Ah.
Yeah.
So there we are, going green again for qualifying. Qualifying rejoined the final 13 minutes after the red flag. Well, it was 13 minutes and 17 seconds. They've been gobbled up, and the cars are going out around Tarzan. Quite a queue of cars. We had 29 cars out on the track earlier on in this half-hour session. Some are in the pit lane. We've heard the massive Motorsport Aston Martin is parked up, and that's sitting at the moment 4th on the time charts. They're going to have to do a gearbox change. Will they still be 4th at the end of the session? Who's going to really deliver the goods? At the moment, it's the car collection Audi, number 33 at the top of the charts. From the Ram Racing, number 30. Mercedes second. They're covered by just 0.156 of a second, and they're clearly the gold mark. Just looking at all damaged front end on the 237 BMW, the car that brought out the red flag. That's just gone past our commentary position into the pit lane with a tattered front end. Not surprising, they went off head first into the barriers at the exit of the Arie Luyendyk box. So the driver's trying to get some heat in their tyres, Joe Bradley, as they go out around the circuit, and also make track space. And Tom Onslow Cole has got a 911 right in front of him. He's trying to run around the outside of it at the moment to make sure he's got a clear lap. He had a clear lap when the red flags came out. That was absolutely wasted, admittedly early in the lap, but he's got to work his way to do the same at the moment if he fancies going for a really quick time. Maybe we see cars down below 1 minute 40. In fact, I'm fairly confident we will.
Well, that number 911 Porsche is one of the potential pole sitters. It's the Renault Porsche who's ahead of Tom Onslow Cole on the road. Tom will want to drop back ever so slightly off the back of him, and then we'll see the two cars from A6 go head-to-head. We've also got a head-to-head battle for the provisional pole for the 991 class, and that is, at the moment, we have the a change of driver in the number 72 HRT Performance Porsche that is currently on the 991 class pole, and that's Soloviev taking over the wheel of that. Now, the MRS GT Porsche with Xavier Masson at the wheel of that, currently only half a second off the 991 pole. Xavier Masson MRS GT, the car that won, the team that won the Mugello 12 Hours. Xavier not in the car though, Joe Foster in the car. They're going to be Charles Espinard, Charles Putman, Xavier Masson and Joe Foster in the 24-hour races. So they're kind of swapping Xavier and Joe Foster in between these 12-hour races. So this weekend, Xavier Masson, understandably, this is his home track and he's great to be here. Xavier may remember, had that huge shunt in Dubai. He was telling me 5 weeks of concussion he recovered from, and sleepless nights and dizzy spells for 5 weeks to get over that shunt. And it was a big one, but bigger than we perhaps thought. Yeah,
gosh, that is quite something. You really start to doubt that you'll ever shake it off when you're like that. But if you can feel a gradual improvement. Right, we're now riding on board with the Stephen Licorice, Bob Herber BMW, rising over the crest at Hunsrück. You've gone out of Hugenhaus box, now you're going to Rob Slottermacher box, and you're getting to the really quick part of the circuit out and back. That's Rob Slottermacher box, as trying to get the front end to turn right. Now the wonderful dipping Chevrolet, where all you see ahead of you is this big wall of gravel, huge gravel trap. Then you're running down between the dunes, big dune on your left-hand side, and this is a corner you really have to get right, which is the Masters Bocht, because it's a twisty section of circuit that follows behind it. But for him, with the A6 cars out on the track, he's trying to keep out of the way while setting a quick time. That's absolutely his charge. But at the moment, he seems to have clear track ahead of him at least, and no one right on his tail. So at least in the 102 BMW, he can get his head down and really, really concentrate.
And that's a really technical part of this circuit. It's the section of track between Box 9 and Box 10 where you do not want to be as far, you know, you're trying to get the car across to the right to get the ideal line through Box 10. And the reason why you want to do that is because you've got that lovely bit of straight that runs down to the very tight right-left chicane at Hanshurst Bock, and you want to be clean through into and out of there. And it's also a passing place. So if you are during the race, you want to be in, if you're battling for position, you want to be clean out of there. So it's a really, really technical part of the track, and that's where the time can come and go.
Well, coming right to the final section of the track with the 102 BMW, Bob Herbert on board. He's 30th and last at the moment, doesn't effectively have a flying lap on the board. So in terms of qualifying, he has now just done so. He's gone up 2 positions. 12 seconds off the ultimate pace, and the ultimate pace is still in the 1:40s. No improvement at the top end, but up into 3rd place, Christian Frankenhout. Now in the better of the 2 Hofer Racing Mercedes, he's into the 1:40s. We've got the top 3 cars all in the 1:40 category. I think that's going to change in the next few minutes. Also making an improvement, 5th place, Robert Renauer, 1:42.40.
Yeah, and a 1:45 for Basseng in the Audi, the car collection Audi. That was his first flying lap through. And a 1:42, so slightly off the optimum pace. Maybe their optimum qualifying lap comes on lap 2 or 3. We'll keep an eye on that as Basseng already through, and Tom Onslow Cole is out there just behind on the track, the 911 numbered Renault Porsche, and his lap time there was a quick one for him, his fastest of the session. And we've got a change at the top of the screen, Bruce. 1:39.5 is the pole position time, and that has just been posted by the number 30 Ram Racing Mercedes of Tom Onslow Cole. So getting optimising the car there, I think, from Tom.
Yeah, he worked his way through the traffic that was ahead of him when he rejoined, when the session was restarted with 13 minutes to play. Still 7.5 minutes remaining. Would someone get below 1:40? Yes, and the answer is 1:39.580, so easily below. Now sitting on an advantage of nearly 0.6 of a second, but now into 3rd place, Robert Renauer in the Herbert Porsche is also very close into the mix. He's 0.6 of a second down, nearly 0.7 down on the ultimate time. So really very close between 2nd and 3rd. It's Mercedes, Audi, Porsche. And that means with that improvement from the Porsche, the Aston Martin parked in the garage for Massive Motorsport is going nowhere. That's slid down 1 position to 5th place overall. Looking,
I don't think we're going to see
KTM Crossbow starting to pick its way up the order. Tom Onslow Cole has traffic ahead of him. The number 30 Mercedes worked his way clear to set that provisional pole lap, but I say provisional, we've still got time in hand. Still 7 minutes remaining in the session, 6:40.
I'm not sure, Bruce, we're going to see any improvement from the Renault Porsche or the Onslow Cole Mercedes, because they've got traffic to deal with on their next flying lap. The Renault Porsche has just gotten past that slow Porsche Cup car, as you can see them there, just coming out of, I think that's the Hanshurst Bock corner there, the right-left chicane, and there Tom getting crowded out there as he came through that very fast right-hander at Kummerbocht, and he'll be coming towards the end of the lap, so I doubt we'll see any kind of improvement from the Mercedes there. He's got a clear lap now, though, having just gone around that traffic, crossing the line.
Yeah, but he was compromised behind the Audi TT through that final corner. He wanted to go down the inside, but the Audi wasn't interested. The Audi driver not at all interested in that TT, and that certainly would have shaved a few kilometres off the speed of the number 30 Ram Racing Mercedes. Still fastest, but who's making the charge behind? Now it's much closer. Hofer Racing Christian Frankenhout is now 2nd. He's moved ahead of the car collection Audi. What's the gap between 1st and 2nd? 0.533 of a second. So Ram Racing do really have to make this one count. Can Tom Onslow Cole go faster than he's managed so far? Will anybody get below, anyone else go below 1:40? Certainly Christian Frankenhout not only can put in a quick lap, he can put in a number of quick laps. We've seen that already in practice and now in qualifying. Just over half a second behind. Ram Racing riding on board at the moment with them, but traffic is unfortunately the key.
Yeah, we're just coming towards the end of the lap. We're just staying. I think he may have backed out of this.
He has, because the Audi's gone back in front of him. So
yeah, he's backed out of it. So maybe he's going to be, he's halfway around the lap, in fact, Bruce. Where is that on the track? Is that going into the Hanshurst Bock?
No, that was Masters Bock,
no,
and so it's the far end. He just down through Chevrolet. So he's backed off early in the lap to let the Audi go past ahead of him. That was where
maybe he's just going to give himself a bit of space. Well, now we're looking at Christian Frankenhout, who's just gone into 2nd place. So at the moment, provisionally, he will share the front row of the grid for this afternoon's start to the race. Now he's backed off also. Now he may be backing off just to cooling the tyres off a little bit, just getting a little bit extra life out of the tyres there, just keeping the brakes up to temp. And as we follow them round, we've got everybody seems to be playing a game of chess out there. waiting to just get a clear track ahead of them and just gauging the traffic behind you and in front of you, because you do not want to be allowing a faster car by to then be held up by it. So Christian Fragenhout now getting on the gas. There's the clock telling us just over 4 minutes remaining in this qualifying session for our faster classes.
Yeah, just checking down who's top in the 991 class. It's still HRT Performance. First and second in class, Renger van der Zande is on board the number 73 at the moment. That's 6th fastest. In fact, not that far. Four and a bit seconds away from pole position. So that's a good run in the 991 class car. So busy all around the world all the time. Renger van der Zande loving being back here at Zandvoort. He said, I live in Amsterdam. I got on my bike and cycled home yesterday.
40 Ks though, he said. It's only 40 Ks. Did you hear that? That's 30 miles.
Yeah, but there were no hills, we know that.
Yeah, well,
but we also know he went to Haarlem and got on the train. So just over half a second between Ram Racing leading the way. We're looking at the car that Martin Lanting is sharing with Bob Herber, the 102, and Stephen Licorice. That is down. It's raised a few positions. In fact, it's gone up to 25th. It was 30th when it did its first flying lap. Just done its best lap there. Bob Herber working his way up to the sort of middle rank SP3 class position, but getting good track time here in this stop-start qualifying session. Of course, there was about an 8-minute break, maybe a 10-minute break in the middle as the 237 BMW was cleared up. But right now, as we're into the final handful of minutes, we've got just under 3 minutes remaining. It's at the top of the charts, Ram Racing from Hofer Racing. 2 Mercedes on the provisional front row of the grid. Looking at the number 45 French entrant, the B2F Porsche out on the circuit, just trying to pick its way around. But the good thing is, though we have potentially 30 cars out on the track, people don't seem at the moment to be too snared in traffic, certainly the ones we can see on our screens and out of the windows of the commentary box. But is anybody going to tilt at those top two? They're sitting well clear. The car collection Audi could yet go back onto the front row. It's only just under 0.6 of a second down.
Question is, with Tom Onslow-Cole sat on pit road, and we can't quite see from our position, but Nick may be able to see whether or not Tom Onslow-Cole and the Ram team have called it a day and are happy with their 1 minute 39.5, half a second quicker than the Frankenhout Mercedes. But have they called it a day, or are they slapping on another set of tyres and giving them another run?
Well, with 2 minutes precisely on the clock, they're leaving it very tight indeed if they're doing that. And let's go down to Nick in the pit lane.
I was commenting no and yes, because they haven't.
Really?
Which was it?
Put any tyres. They've just gone and put the car in back. And there's Tom Onslow-Cole actually on camera. So let's grab a slightly premature congratulations, almost certainly being on pole, Tom.
Yeah, don't want to get too excited yet. You never know. I think there's still a minute to go. But pleased with, wherever we end up. I'm really pleased. The team are doing a great job with the car. It seems to be very quick here, really suits the circuit, and it's responding well to all the little changes we've made so far in practice.
A big fillip for the team after the problems in Mugello. We didn't get to race at all. I mean, did you get to the bottom of what those problems were? Did they say what had happened?
We don't know the specifics of what went on. AMG have been superb in investigating it. They've really taken the stress out of it, and they've been working hard on the issue. And we're here with a slightly new package where we believe, the running issues that we have had are resolved. So a bit of a tip of the hat to them, really. I know they've been working real hard, and hopefully, we start at the right end of the grid and we can get through the race in a similar position. Looking
towards the race itself, it's a similar proposition to Mugello, in which the first part of the race, just stay on the first lap, yeah?
Yeah, I think so. And it would be nice to finish full of fuel with a good set of tyres, ready for hopefully some more sunshine tomorrow. That's definitely a strategy. Whether or not you can play it that easily, we'll soon know, I guess. As soon as that's not happening, it's going to be about staying at the front and fighting at the front. It's very easy if you do slip back just to have a code 60 not fall your way, and before you know it, you're 2 laps down. So you can't be quite that cautious.
I mean, how much is planned in advance? Have you written down that Tom will start and Stuart will take second and Paul will go third?
Have you seen our plan? Yeah, there's a plan. But I don't know what the technical term is, but you can change it. We start off with an ideal scenario, and then we adapt to what's going on as it's happening.
So it's a flexible plan.
That's probably the technical term, yeah.
I mean, with Paul, you're not having to take too much into account because he's one of the fastest gentleman drivers. But would you like to perhaps get an hour of his race time in today, if it's possible?
Yeah, Paul will run today for sure. Paul's a fantastic he's really got good pace. He's good out there. I don't want to say too much because I could be giving him like commentator's curse, but no, normally we can rely on him.
That's co-driver's curse. It's completely different.
Right, okay, it's fine. So no, we've got a really solid package here. Stuart is quick as well, so we're hoping to run consistently through the race.
And quickly, Bruce, has qualifying finished?
Nicholas, qualifying has finished. As you were he is still on pole. I was trying to build up to a dramatic moment, but yes, Tom is on pole. Congratulations, Tom Onslow Cole and the Ram Racing crew.
I'm really sorry, Tom, but just over there, see that blue car? Yeah, it came in the pit, so you're on pole.
Really bugger.
Tom Onslow Cole.
Thanks very much, Nick. We were there as it happened. I was watching the screens while you were talking to Tom, but I couldn't see any great progress.
Out of character, Nick Damon winding someone up, hey?
He'll get his comeuppance at some point. So that's the first part of qualifying over.
Yeah, and it's great to see the Ram boys coming back after that engine problem that stopped them taking part in the Mugello 12 hours. They are actually going to see the race then. An engine problem on a Mercedes AMG GT is unheard of, very unusual. Yeah, but they're back and as strong as ever.
Now, super. Here's the ranking. Ram Racing take the top spot, as we mentioned. So 1 minute 59.580. It was a really close battle. Hofer Racing, with one of their two SLS AMGs, is on the front row alongside the newer AMG from Ram Racing. Car Collection, that could have had a tilt. The Car Collection Audi R8 into third place. Porsche on the second row as well with the Herbert Motorsport 991. Massive Motorsport Aston Martin with the gearbox problems back in fifth place. All very close and competitive. And right towards the end, Rupert Svendon Cook put the Lippert Motorsport Lamborghini Super Trofeo into sixth place on the grid. The best of the 991 classes. It's in fact both of the HRT performance entries. And Renger van der Zande brought the number 73 entry to class pole in that. But as you can see, just 0.2 of a second ahead of the sister car. MRS GT Racing car looks fantastic with its livery. Number 78 is 9th on the grid. And the second of the Hofer Racing SLS AMG Mercedes is 10th for the race this afternoon. IDEX Sport in another AMG Mercedes is 11th. MSG Motorsport go 12th. Top in the SP2 class in 14th place overall. They had a problem for the sister car, the 64 entry, but the 65 991 Cup class car is top in its class there with the closest challenge from the TT RS2 in 16th place overall. So, great qualifying session, interrupted by a red flag. It's going to be very, very quick fire here at Zandvoort. There was supposed to be a 10-minute break, but because we had the delay with the red flag, we're going to go qualifying for the cars in the junior classes, if you will, as soon as possible. That's the message on the timing screen. And in fact, we are underway. The first car's going onto track. As you can see on the big shots, the Hofer Racing Mercedes are being taken down to the end of the pit lane and pushed down into the refueling bay. 6 pumps down just on the inside of Tarzan. So what we're seeing, a very quick changing of the guard, Joe Bradley, and now we're getting the BMW Cup class cars and the A3 and A2 cars going out onto the circuit, getting some heat in their tyres. Let's hope we can have this running without a red flag, because it's such a tight timetable today. This session is starting at just about 14:16. That's 6 minutes late. And there was only a very short gap after the end of that before they have to get them out onto the grid and for the race itself.
Yeah, for Nick Damon's grid walk, they've got to be ready, be prepared and ready for Nick to walk amongst them and have a chat to them. But straight into our saloon car categories, and this is where we'll see everything from a BMW M3 to a Clio Cup car.
And we should hear from Nick Damon, who's very keen to talk from the pit lane.
I'm always very keen to talk. It's an oddly balanced pair of qualifying sessions, isn't it? Because I think there's only about 15, 16 cars in this session.
Well, I think it's going to be 14, because there were 46 cars. We had 30 out in that first session. We've lost the Lamborghini and we've lost the Porsche, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that should have been 32, which leaves 14 cars to go and play.
So they have a nice, lovely, clean bit of track. It'll be no one coming up behind them, flashing their lights, bullying them out of the way. This is the time to get your value for money in your slower car, isn't it? Driving around in the sun, in qualifying, with no one getting in your way.
Yeah, well, certainly you're going to be unlikely to have an excuse that traffic was a problem ahead of you. So, fantastic conditions. Some of these cars were out in free practice last night. Almost all of them are out this morning in the 1-hour practice session that led straight into qualifying. This is the second part of qualifying. This is the part for touring cars. And as watching the screens in beautiful, perfect driving conditions here at Zandvoort. Cars on their outlap for the junior classes. Basically all the classes with the exception of the top class runners will be out there on the circuit. Largely, sake of argument, it's the cars that would have been and could have been competing, and some did, in the opening round of the Touring Car Endurance Series at Silverstone just a few weeks ago, when the weather, I think we can safely say, was a little bit colder, Joe, as we worked the pits.
I know nothing about that. When was that? At Silverstone?
Silverstone.
Oh, God, yes.
You do know plenty about it.
Yes, I know plenty about that. I've kind of erased it from my memory, though. It was not as bad as the World Endurance Championship, though, Bruce. We had snow for that, and that was only a couple of weeks ago. But bizarre. Now, we usually have quite a lot of Seat Leons out in this field, and we've got, I think, about 3. Have we got only 3 Seat Leons in the field, or 4? Let's wait and see who actually comes out on track. But the current champions, the current series champions from 2015, the Altron team, choosing not to compete at the 12 Hours of Zandvoort. I think they've got their sights on the Touring Car Championship, which takes place next month in June. And their car being prepared for that, so they're foregoing the 12 Hours of Zandvoort. We are just on an out lap. Now, the Hankook tyres, I know, do have an optimum lap where they will be at their best, and then they kind of plateau for the rest of the stint, which is, it's an endurance racing tyre, so that's, you know, it's ideally what you want. But it adds pressure to the driver. It adds, well, firstly, it adds pressure to the engineering of the car, because you've got to get the right pressure. And then once you've got the right pressure, tyre pressure that is, then the pressure reverts from the tyre to the driver, because the driver is then very much under pressure to pull out that primary lap, that optimum lap, as and when the tyre comes in.
And just watching Martin Sally Peterson doing just that in his car. Number 172, that's in the junior class, the A2 class. Wonderful onboard footage from him. And he's just coming through the final corner, the Arie Luijendijk box, and then he's just praying he can get every horsepower involved as he comes past our commentary position. We're in that tower on the right with the white building with the blue windows, down to the first corner at Tarzan. It won't look as bumpy when you look at the Renault Clio as it did when we saw the Lamborghini going down there, but it is bumpy on the approach, and you really want all your tyres on the ground, because of course you're braking really heavily. Now, the twisting section behind the paddock, which is so tiny, certainly you couldn't have a Grand Prix here anymore for that reason alone. Of Gerlach box.
There's the wall, Bruce. Aim at the wall and then turn left.
And the better line is definitely the deeper you go into the corner. You go high, as high as you can, and the track will cup you around the corner. If you go down the inside, you run out of road very, very quickly indeed. You need the wider line on the way in. Over the rise at Hunzerhoek, then through the starting of this wonderful sweeper at the Slottermacherbocht, and it was just on the X's that we had Alex Osborne going off into the gravel. And down to just there, and then now we're in Schevelach, dropping down the slope. So there is gradient here at Zandvoort, and also, as you can see, reflection off the screen, there's a big bright sun in the sky, so at certain points on the lap. It'll be worse later on once we go racing, because we're racing here until 7 o'clock tonight, the first 3 hours of the 12 hours of Zandvoort this evening, and the sun will be in their eyes at some point, but conditions absolutely perfect, and people have been behaving. Any little moments have been off the track. We haven't had anybody leaving oil around the circuit, so conditions absolutely spot on. Top early laps at the moment, it's well, one of the 2 Team Altran Peugeots that are so strong in this series, 208 and 205, and it's the 208 entry with Guillaume Romand, who's top of the time charts by 3 seconds at the moment from the sister car, but that was because he's just stuck a really good opening flying lap in this session, and the sister car with Andres on board is trying to build up its speed there, and that's Gonzalo Martin de Andres, a Spanish driver who's new to the team here at Zandvoort. But at the moment we only have 10 of the 12 cars out in this session, so fewer than half of the cars that went out in the first session. So track session, trying to find space on the track, not a problem at the moment, but the 208 is the car doing it best, the Peugeot 208, looking fantastic. The level of preparation from Team Altran is exquisite.
Cleanse your mind of all things production Peugeot 208 when you look at that car. They've got a very trick under tray, Bruce, that is doing something, and it moves around. I'm not sure if it's still carrying that, but I saw that in a few races last year, and the team not wanting to give away any secrets, but there's something about getting the air, about these small hatchbacks. It's all about getting the air, and any touring car really, any of these saloon cars, it's all about getting the air around the car. So you're going to plug the gap between the bonnet and any kind of trim at the front of the car. Yes, you want the air to go through into your radiators, but that's all. And you want the car underneath it as cleanly as possible. So you know, no messy sort of suspension bits, nice clean floor tray, and that's certainly the attention to detail. And one of the cars we were in car with earlier in the session, the Team Sally Clio Cup, called the Clio, great little car, SADEV sequential box, flat shift gearbox. So it's basically, you know, when you're changing up the box, you keep your foot hard on the accelerator and just pull the gear, and then you can left foot brake and just lift as you go down the box. It's got a little sensor on it that blips the engine for you. Really, and those cars were built by Renault Sport as race cars. They are not converted Renault Clios. They were built by Renault as Renault Sport race cars. So they're certainly are right up to the job. And I just love the RCZ Peugeot. Oh, that is just it's a beautiful road car, and it makes for a great race car.
It's only second in its class, though. Jacob Christensen, brother of Tom, at the wheel at the moment, because top in the A2 class is the RKC Honda Civic with Drinkwater on board at the moment. But now it's no longer Peugeot at the top of the chart, it's the Seat, and that's on top by another 3 seconds faster. Sebastian Blakemolen knows this circuit like the back of his hand, and he just lapped in 1 minute 50.7, so he's just over 3 seconds ahead of the number 208 Peugeot. A bit of a sideways moment there from Sebastian in the white Seat Leon Cup race, but he's in a different class. He's in the TCR class, and the Peugeots are in the A3 class, so it's all about class battles. But the next TCR class car, another Seat Leon, is Baz Koten on board. He's 4th fastest overall, but he's got to find 3.3 seconds to catch up with Sebastian Blakemolen. You see a number 1 on the side window there of 127 Seat, top in class and top of all these sort of touring car class cars in the second qualifying session, but only 12 cars out on track. Traffic is not an excuse.
It is usually the TCR class cars that do go to the front of the of this qualifying session, and as we're seeing, there's 2 Seat Leons seem to be the car of choice. They are very robust, they're pretty bulletproof. I know I've just put the commentator's curse on them for the race, I'm sorry about that, but they really do prove to be a car for the job.
But we have 3 cars in TCR class. The second fastest one, the NKPP Seat Leon, has just improved its lap time by 1.5 seconds. So 1.7 seconds now down on the 127 car. And the third car in the class is one of our old favourites. We're riding on board with it now, the 303. Rick Broiker's on board, the Red Camel Jordan's Seat Leon, trying to make himself track time, but he's down at the moment in 9th place of the 12 runners, so he's got a lot of time to gain, but he certainly shouldn't be just under 10 seconds down, but appears to be coming into the pits. How much time on the clock? Still just under 20 minutes, and as long as we don't have the red flag that interrupted the previous session, hopefully this can all work to a sort of plan. For a lot of the teams in the bigger class cars, they got a bit scuppered by that red flag.
Class winner, I believe, or whether was that car on the podium at Silverstone for the 24 hours in the hands of Rick and Ivor Broikers. Nick?
Bruce. Now, well, let's see if we can see this trick under tray on the Altran. It's in here now, so we come down. Look, there's no under tray, there's a bit of a blocker there. This is Joe's talking about. You see they have sealed up as many gaps as possible, apart from the actual air intakes, the radiators, and some extra air there. But under tray wise, they've actually massively reduced the front ride height with the air dam. As we come around here, again, pretty standard a little bit, but they have got a very nice, not sure how much good these under trays do. When they're this sort of level, they are producing a few pounds of downforce, but of course the key thing really for an under tray to work, for diffusers to work, is to actually be able to make them as close as possible to the ground. So this area here, there's downforce disappearing, but obviously it is as a styling point for the 208 car, but also hopefully with a few horsepower. But what we can't see is absolutely under the car, which I'm sure, as Joe says, is flat as a pancake.
Thanks very much, Nick. I like the way the mechanic had to step over your arm and your clipboard as he went about his day's work in the pit lane.
Nick,
clipboardy off me.
Yeah, Nick being a clipboardy person for a change.
Can't see that lasting. So let's just run down the order. At the moment, on top by 1.7 seconds is the Team Blakemolen, number 127 Seat. Leon from the car from the same class, but from NKPP Racing. Baz Koten at the wheel of that. And then top A3 class car in 3rd place overall is the 208 Peugeot from Team Altran, ahead of the 205 sister car, which is just precisely a tenth of a second down behind it in second in class. Top in A2 in 7th place of all this is the number 99 Honda, and at the moment at the wheel of that is David Drinkwater. He set the time. And is anybody going to be able to take a tilt at Sebastian Blakemolen? We saw his 127 Seat getting pretty tight. Which of these 208 Peugeots are going to come out on top? You have to say at the moment, with 1/10 of a second between them. It could go absolutely either way, but it's the 208 that has the bragging rights. Guillaume Roman at the wheel. And,
great inter-team rivalry at Team Ultron. Always is, Bruce. It's really, really competitive. I just remember them at the Silverstone 24 Hours and them choreographing their pit stops. No doubt that we'll be seeing them practicing their pit stops in the very short break. In fact, they probably won't have time to do any pit stop practice, because we really have got virtually no time whatsoever other than wiping the dust off the cars and then wheeling them out onto the grid for the build-up to the race.
Well, the checkered flag was supposed to come down on this session at 14:40. We started 6 minutes late, so that's 14:46, and race starts at 1600.
Yes, yeah, and remember, we've got to be all gridded up in that for about
3:15.
I was going to say 45 minutes before the start, so that we can start our pre-race ceremonies.
Now, what we haven't really talked very much. BMW at the moment, and third in the A3 class is Kevin Veltman in Voss Veltman M3. It's not M3, sorry, BMW Cup class car. Ahead of Sorg Rensport. They're always right at the sharp end in that class, and they're number 151 entry with Matteo Drescher. The Polish driver is 6th fastest in the tour in this touring car grouping, if you will. He's 4th in A3. So it's the 2 Peugeots ahead of the 2 BMW M235i Racing Cup cars.
Head of the A2 class, though, Bruce, is the British team, the RKC TGM.
Let's go down to the pits, and Nick Damon has news.
It's a bit of a subject change slightly. Just going to have a look at the 55 Massive Motorsport car, which we know is in trouble. Now, one thing I forgot, what makes this gearbox change easier is, of course, the Aston Martin has a rear transaxle, so you don't have to take the engine out. So as you can see, they've already got the old one. They take the whole rear suspension out. They're trying to now waggle out. They have waggled out the old gearbox, put in the new gearbox, but of course it's much, much easier than a car that's normally conventionally connected to the gearbox at the back of the engine, because you haven't got to move the engine. Just take it. They've dropped the bottom rear subframe out, which Hope Sebastian's got on frame now. So the rear subframe there has been dropped out. There's your new gearbox. Just align that up, meld it up, and they've put, so in 35, 38 minutes they've had it out. So getting it back in again in 38 minutes, which is how long they've got, is the challenge.
Thanks very much, Nick. We'll keep an eye on that. But meanwhile, the clock is ticking down. We're into the final half of this session, just under 15 minutes remaining. Riding on board with the Red Camel Jordans, 3:03. It was down the order early on. It still hasn't set a really good time. Rick Broiker's at the wheel at the moment, but he's got to find just under an A3 class, TCR class. He's 10 seconds down on the class position. He's got clear track, but...
That's his outlap, though, Bruce.
Yep.
That's definitely his outlap. He's just building up his speed now towards the end of the lap. Here he is at Arie Luyendyk Bocht, the final turn here at Zandvoort. He wants to carry as much speed as he possibly can as he crosses the line to start what will be his optimum lap, no doubt, as we pass the pits. Give him a wave as he passes by, and there he goes into the braking area for Tarzan, which is that corner where you can carry a lot of speed because it is slightly banked, so you can get away with carrying speed, just hugging the curb on the right there, just clipping the curb on the exit there, and then keeping it clean.
That wasn't his build-up lap, that was his lap. That's put him
really?
Second fastest. Yeah, I was just looking at the timing screen, couldn't find him, and he's vaulted from 9th up to second place. So he's 10th of a second better than the NKPP car with Baz Coyton 125, but the 127 car driven by Sebastian Blakemolen set the pole position time in the class.
So Rick
very early on.
He snuck out under our noses and put in his fastest lap. Let's see if he can get some more performance out of the car. He goes through those beautiful sweepers and then into the Schleerweg, which is a fantastic corner there for part of the old circuit. This right-hand sweep, huge sand dunes. Take your bucket and spade out there in the downtime and make some sand castles. Then he goes into Masters Bocht, carrying a lot of speed. Now into the braking area for the very tight Bocht 9. This is all important because you don't want the car to run out too wide, because you need the car to be across to the right. This is the textbook one. This is a 180-degree turn. Turns in, just there's his clipping point there. Now he gets back on the power and he just uses all the track there. Now this is the one where you've got a blind entry, just going over this brow, and then we go into the very tight Hans Ernst Bocht, which is a virtual chicane. It's a very tight right-hander this. Just clip the apex, keep it a little bit to the right. Now you turn in, use all the curb on the left there. And now you want to be on the power, out onto this very short straight. This is where you can make or break the lap. Come up Bocht is what this one's called, the right-handed. Don't commit too early, don't run out too wide, just keep it on the curb. Now this is Arie Luyendyk Bocht, the final turn. This is where we watched him before. Now, has he improved? He's looking like improving on a 1:52.4. That's his fastest time of the session so far. And he does go even quicker. He's put in a 1 minute 51.5. So that time through, Rick Broikers there up to 1 minute 51.5. Still got to find 0.8 of a second though for pole position. So that team Bleekemolen, Sebastian Bleekemolen, on the pole position by quite a gap, I think.
Yeah, but what that also showed, without a red flag during the middle of the session, they could build up towards time, whereas of course all the top class cars were tripped up with that flag coming out with just over 13 minutes remaining, just as they were starting to go for quicker tyres. Now we'll watch Rick Broikers from the outside this time. Has he backed off a little bit? No, I think he's still on it. He's going to try and take a tilt. He has to get into the low 1 minute 50s if he's going to take class pole position, but it's not worth just hanging it out that shade too much. But of course, the Broikers know the Zandvoort circuit very well indeed. But actually, for young Rick, he's probably raced as much outside the Netherlands as he has at home. It's a very short career, but he's spreading his wings and going better and better. He has got traffic ahead of him. Is that one of the Peugeots? It's one of the Team Alfa? No, it's not. Just trying to see in the distance who else has been making improvements. An improvement from Kevin Veltman in the A3 class. He's now up into second position, so he's split the two Peugeots. And Joe.
Lights flashing from Rick Broikers there. He feels like he's going to be held up by the Team Outrun Peugeot, who in itself is on a fast lap, so he'll not want to compromise to allow Rick through. He does indeed, though, move across to the right. Very gentlemanly, that, very sportsmanlike. This is very, very tricky, this part, and I think he scrubbed off too much speed there. That was the lap spoil. He had to compromise his line into the first part, the first right-hand part of Hans Ernst Bock, and that, I think, may have cost Rick Broikers an even quicker lap. We're just coming towards the end of the lap now. This is the 303 Seat Leon in the TCR class, currently second overall in our saloon car classes, and across the line he goes, and slightly quicker, would you believe, Bruce? Slightly quicker, 1 minute 51.5, so a few tenths again shaved there, and just putting that gap to that pole position at just under 0.8 of a second. So he's gained just over 1/10 of a second there. So that car going quicker and quicker the longer he stays out.
It is indeed. It was a shame it was compromised, but that's how much did he lose? A quarter of a second wasn't enough. So that time from Sebastian Bleekemolen, really very, very strong indeed, right at the start of the session. But we did see him getting quite sideways as he tried to do the subsequent lap, and it didn't improve his time, but certainly circuit knowledge and attacking from the outset. Just looking as if there's damage on the bonnet of that Peugeot, the Clio as it goes down, or is it? No, it's just the reflection of the bonnet sitting up very slightly for the Team Sally Peterson car. And who else is going better? A better lap time last time around from the German Wheels BMW M3. That's now fourth in the A3 class. So A3 is Peugeot, BMW, Peugeot, BMW.
Still that number 99 Honda heading the A2 class. Ricky Coomber, Thomas Gannon and David Drinkwater. All English driver lineup, British team. And they are currently in 9th overall in our saloon car classes, but heading up the A2 class, of which we have 4 cars at the back of the field, and that includes the Peugeot of the Team K Racer with Jip Christensen. That's the Peugeot RCZ, of course, and then we've got the 2 Renault Clios at the back of the field. That's the number 167 car, PrepTech UK, and the Team Sally car rounding off the field there. So the 4 A2 cars, as you would imagine, are at the rear of this field, but they are having a battle of their very own for their grid. Grid within a grid, isn't it? It's a grid at the back of the overall grid, Bruce.
Exactly, and you have to focus just on your own class. That's all you can do here. And in fact, at any other endurance race, multi-class races, be it the Nürburgring 24 hours, the Spa 24 hours, the 151 BMW comes into the pits with just over 8 minutes remaining, and they're sitting 5th in A3. They're slowest in A3, so for Sorgren Sport, Maciej Ressa has decided maybe enough is enough, so he's in the pits. In fact, we've got the fastest car, the 127 Seat, is in the pits. We've got also in the pits the 208 Outran Peugeot, the sister car, the 205 car. I think some people have decided they've given it their best shot, and of course the race is coming up pretty soon indeed. So
I think so, Bruce, and I think with just under 8 minutes remaining, if these were GT cars, with a GT car you can slap a new set of tyres on and get maybe another run at it in an optimised lap. But I think with the TCR classes and the other saloon car classes, I think the tyres come on and come on and come on, and the lap times have been improving lap after lap after lap. So I think it's a time issue. You need to be out there for at least 5 laps before you seem to be getting what is proved to be an optimum lap for any of these cars. But Rick Breukers is still out there. He's still going round and round in 3:03. We're in car with him now.
Well, he was a 10th down on his best on his previous lap. So what's he going to do this time?
What's he going to do this time? Yeah.
Because don't forget, his best lap was compromised by traffic, and maybe the tyres might be going away a tiny little bit, but not that much, as you've just been discussing, Joe. And this traffic shouldn't affect him too much. As long as that BMW keeps out of the way, I think that one's heading to the pits. And very kindly puts on his indicator and flinging it to the outside. Rick Breukers goes out of Kumo Bock. Now he's entering Arie Luyendyk Bock on absolutely the correct line, which is what he needed to do to carry the speed onto the start-finish straight all the way down. He's still got time to do at least a few more flying laps. Has he improved this time round? No, he's lost 0.2 of a second, but that's 3 laps in a row in the 1:51. So that's a very, very competitive running from young Rick in the 3:03.
And it may be that we're now seeing those Hankook tyres plateauing, as I mentioned. You get an optimum lap from them eventually, and it's variable where that optimum lap comes from, but then the tyres kind of plateau and they then go into kind of what I would call a race pace, where you can, lap after lap, you're in the 51s, just on the edge of 52s, and that's maybe where the car is right now. But he's still trying. He's still out onto another lap with 6 minutes remaining.
6 minutes remaining, but only 2 other cars out on the track. So let's hang and find out soon what's going to happen down the bottom. But we're waiting. Sebastian Bleekemolen seems to be sitting very comfortably on pole. That 3/4 of a second buffer really does seem very, very good indeed. But Rick Breukers isn't finished yet. That
is a huge gap, though, Bruce. And I'm not sure Rick has got 3/4 of a second in those tyres. No doubt about it. He's driving that car as cleanly and as swiftly as possible. He's using all the track. As we can see, he's being very clean, keeping off the curbs, keeping the car stable. Now, he's not using all of the track coming out of what I think was Bock 10, as he goes down into the Hans-Ernst Bock, the very tight right-left flick. Virtually a chicane, that one, as we come out of that, and he's going towards... No, I think he's backed off. I think he's on his in-lap, Bruce. So Rick Breukers is now into the pits, I would think. He's just about to turn into Arie Luyendyk Bock, which is the final turn here at Zandvoort. He'll stay across to the right and into the pits. So Rick Breukers bringing the 303 car in, and I think that's going to pretty much solidify the Sebastian Bleekemolen provisional pole so far.
Certainly seems that way, and hopefully we'll get a word with Sebastian Bleekemolen down to the pit lane with Nick.
Sebastian, a couple of minutes to go, but congratulations on your pole, because everyone's come in.
Yeah, the other one is coming in now, the Ivo Breukers car. Yeah, the good and clear laps. Yeah, nothing to complain about.
Very out there, very quick. Were the tyres getting quicker, or did they only last a couple of laps? So can you keep going faster on them?
Well, this track is very challenging for the tyres, so we want to save the tyres for the race a bit. It will be quite hot tomorrow and this afternoon, so we saved the tyres a bit. We did only 2 laps on this set, and we put some new ones on for the start, and then we see where we end up.
Just 2 names on the car, so you're just doing it two-handed?
Yeah, well, the original plan was that I drove all season together with Melvin de Groot. So yeah, that's what we did also this race. For a 12-hour race, it's okay.
What are the tactics in these classes where you're halfway down? You're faster than some, but slower than others. Are you really racing, or are you just trying to avoid trouble?
Well, of course you have to avoid trouble, but you're racing from the beginning. We did Silverstone a couple of weeks ago, the 24 hours, and we were on it from the beginning till the engine failed. But yeah, it was really, really pushing and racing like it has to be.
Sebastian, thanks a lot. Thanks, mate.
So thank you very much, Nick Damon. Just catching Sebastian. The session isn't over, but that time 3/4 of a second to the good certainly will be to the good, because the 303 with Rick Breukers, the bright orange red camel Jordan's Seat, has come into the pit lane, and the session still has a few moments. 3 minutes still to run, but only a handful of cars on the track. In fact, the Peugeots have gone back out to have a crack to see if they can solidify their pole position, class pole position in A3. Top of A2 is still the Ricky Comber Honda. Ricky Comber on board it now. It was David Drinkwater who was running there earlier at the head of the class. So 12 cars went out to play in this sort of junior qualifying session, if you will, after the fireworks at the top end in the A6 class and the 991 classes. And Rick Breukers still has just gone back out onto the track, listed as being in the pits, but we're riding on board with his car going around the back of the track. Conditions absolutely perfect for qualifying here at Zandvoort. The race will start later this afternoon at 4 o'clock, and at the moment it's almost 2:45, so very, very quick fire entity here at Zandvoort today. Practice, qualifying, and the first 3 hours of the Zandvoort 12 hours, all in the space of one day. And in between, we share on the programme track time with the supercarts, who go out to the leather-clad heroes, if you will, who go out onto the wide open space of the circuit in their tiny little but very, very quick supercarts. But quickest of all in this session, 1 minute 50.759 seconds, is the Team Bleekemolen Seat Leon, number 127, all-white car. And we just heard from Sebastian Bleekemolen talking to Nick Damon out on the circuit, though, trying to have a tilt it, and there's still time. He's taken, just going down to Tarzan now. Braking for Tarzan is Rick Breukers. Will he be able to reduce his best time by 3/4 of a second and take class pole? Saw Rensport also out on the circuit. That's the number 151 BMW M235i Cup class car, but that's in the tail of the A3 class car. He's still chipping away. He needs to find 1/4 of a second to move up a position or so, but don't forget, it's not that important. Qualifying when you're in a junior class for a 46 car entry, you've just got to get out there on the grid and do your stuff. And Rick Breukers is very much doing that as he goes through the sweepers.
I think you need to tell Rick Breukers that, because he wants that class pole position. He wants the TCR pole position, because he's back out on the track with under a minute left there. You just see on the countdown board there, 55 seconds, 54 seconds now. As we look down the start-finish straight, Rick Breukers halfway around the lap, just going on to the infield, and he will be negotiating, no doubt, towards Box 9 the next time we come to him. So we'll keep an eye on the timing screens. He's still out there. He's looking for just under 0.8 of a second. He no doubt have plopped some fresh Hankook rubber onto the Red Camels Jordan Seat Leon. The 303 car is the car we're talking about. So let's see if we can latch on to Rick Breukers and see if we can see whether or not he does, in fact, get the or wrest the pole position from Sebastian Bleekemolen. Hopefully Nick didn't put a curse on him there, and Rick Breukers is still on track to see. Let's see, he's due any moment now, Bruce.
So that's the end of the first stint. Coming up, there's the checkered flag being waved. That is qualifying completed. And will the pole position change right in the dying seconds? 303 crossing the line. And failing, Rick Breukers took a very, very good tilt to take pole position. But look, the gap was down to next to nothing. 0.3 of a second, that final tilt. What a great run there from Rick Breukers. But applause for Team Bleekemolen and Sebastian taking the top.
And applause for the Red Camel Jordan team to not give up. I mean, they could have, considering how close we are to race start, they said, you know what, there's some fresh tyres. Go out and get that pole position. And he nearly did it, because he found half a second there, Bruce. He found over half a second. Only 0.3 of a second was the gap at the very end there.
It got super, super close at the end, but Sebastian Bleekemolen tops it for Team Bleekemolen in the TCR class. The next class down, in 4th place overall in that session. Kilm Holmgaard completed it in the 208 Peugeot to be top in A3, top in A2 is the Ricky Comber Honda, but at the moment it's the bragging rights to Team Bleekemolen.
So, Bruce, we have qualified. We've got a grid set, and we are now going to have a lie down in a dark room and be rubbed down with some rhubarb fat before we come back on here and present to you our race build-up, our...
Well, we have just under half an hour, Joe, to do all of that, eat some lunch and get packed. You know, it really is a packed combination here. Packed day's entertainment, Friday at Zandvoort. The sun is shining. We've had really exciting qualifying sessions. We've had a red flag. Didn't take long to clear up. And right at the final second, as the checkered flag was coming out, we nearly had a change for class pole position in the TCR class. But we will start the countdown at 15:15, and the racing starts for the first 3 hours, the 12 hours of Zandvoort, at 4 o'clock. Let's bring it on.
And that's 14:15 in the UK, Bruce. I thought I'd mention that.
Yes, absolutely so. So Radio Le Mans just